Live election coverage, on air, online, and streaming on the ABC7 Bay Area app. Now from ABC7, your voice, your vote.
It's Election Day and the votes are being counted. The polls just closed across the state. This is video from Contra Costa County where the ballots were being accepted and counted today.
And the rain wasn't keeping voters or ballot collectors away. Certainly, we shot this video today in Alameda County. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dan Ashley.
And I'm Luz Kreutz. Welcome to our special election coverage on our 24/7 stream. We have a crew of reporters tonight live from Sacramento and across the Bay Area to bring you the latest results.
We will also have political experts along with ABC7 News insider Phil Mateer throughout the next 3 hours of our coverage. But we're going to chat with Phil in just a few minutes. Let's begin with a quick look at the hot races. Polls closed, as we said, just moments ago.
We're going to start with the governor's race. Current California governor Gavin Newsom is seeking his second term at the state's top spot. ABC News has just projected that Gavin Newsom, no surprise here, will become and serve a second term. He has won his re-election bid for governor. No surprise there. He was leading in polls by double digits. His term did face some major battles, of course, including the COVID-19 pandemic. He's up against Republican challenger Brian Daly. For state controller, it's Democrat Malia Cohen and Republican Lonnie Chen running for the state's chief fiscal officer. And
all right, now let's move to the U.S. Senate. It's Democratic incumbent Alex Padilla versus Republican challenger Mark Musser. Again, polls just closed. We'll begin to get some results here in just a few minutes, but we're running through some of the key races that we are following closely for you tonight. And we should point out that Padilla, Alex Padilla, has just been called by ABC News as the Democratic incumbent for U.S. Senate. Alex Padilla will win.
So we are just getting those results in right now since polls did just close. The state propositions include Proposition 1, which would add the fundamental right to reproductive freedom into the Constitution. So that's another ballot that we are watching very closely.
Yeah, that's right. Proposition 26. You've seen a lot of advertising about this one. Changes the rules for gaming, allowing in-person roulette, dice games, sports wagering on tribal lands. It also allows sports wagering at certain horse racing tracks. Now, Proposition 27 allows online and mobile sports betting and wagering outside of tribal lands, different than Proposition 26.
Right. We're also following Proposition 28, which would provide additional funding for arts and music education in public schools.
And Prop 29 requires on-site licensed medical professionals at kidney dialysis clinics. It also requires clinics to disclose physician ownership, interests, and report infection data.
Prop 30 provides funding to help reduce air pollution and prevent wildfires through a tax on personal income over $2 million. And also, Dan, Prop 31.
Yeah, that's you've seen a lot of talk about this one. Proposition 31 would prohibit the retail sale of certain flavored tobacco products. Of course, the goal by proponents of Prop 31 is to keep these products away from children.
Right.
All right.
So a lot to get to tonight.
Yeah, a lot to get to. It's a fascinating night, busy night. We've got it all covered for you. Let's go to Sacramento. ABC7 News reporter Cornell Bernard.
Yeah, Cornell, ABC News just called the race for Newsom. As we mentioned, we were just getting that in as we came on the air. What's the mood like there in Sacramento?
Yeah, people just reacting to that news, Liz and Dan. No surprise, of course, so many tight races across California and the nation. This, of course, is not one of them. And Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to show up here at the Citizen Hotel any moment to claim victory, to claim his second term as California governor. We're actually at an event for Proposition 1, protecting abortion rights. This is, of course, an issue that Governor Gavin Newsom has campaigned for, has felt passionately for in the past, even done television commercials supporting it. Now, take a look at some video that we shot earlier today. Newsom and first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom voted this morning at their local polling place in Sacramento. Instead of campaigning for re-election, he's really been focused on abortion rights, boosting fellow Democratic candidates as well. Newsom is up 20 points in the polls, or has been, well over his Republican opponent, Brian Daly. Newsom famously, of course, you might remember, defeated a recall measure just last year.
You know, in many ways, I think the governor is going to win tonight because we won collectively a year ago. You know, Republicans tried to take their best shot 12 months ago and came up quite a bit short. And so, you know, I think Governor Newsom has done a phenomenal job at moving California forward, and he'll continue to do that by focusing on some of the really challenging issues that Californians are facing.
Yeah, issues like housing, jobs, and health care. Newsom has vowed to finish his second term as governor, perhaps trying to knock down any speculation that he might make a run for the White House if President Biden decides not to seek a second term. Again, we are waiting for the governor to show up any moment. In fact, he's going to be standing right there. We will bring you his remarks as soon as we get them. For now, we're live in Sacramento at the Citizen Hotel. I'm Cornell Bernard, ABC7 News.
All right,
Thanks,
Cornell, thank you. ABC7 News insider Phil Matier is here with us now to break this all down.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You know, last year Governor Newsom survived the recall effort.
Survived? He smashed it.
He smashed it.
And
it's a triumphant moment for him.
Paved the way for his reelection. This is his third time in front of the statewide to be elected governor, and third time he wins. He spent this time, however, mostly outside the state, if you notice, both with campaign ads and appearances. I don't recall one rally for Newsom for governor in the state of California, but he saw his ads in Texas and in Florida, and he actually put most of his efforts into passing the constitutional amendment to codify abortion in the state of California. And his only campaign ad was that democracy was on the ballot. So I understand he's not running for president. He said that. But he's sure standing pretty close to it.
Well, he's maybe setting himself up to run for president.
And, you know, Abbott's reelection in Texas. DeSantis appears like he's going to be reelected in Florida. So we have this sort of new generation of both Democrats and Republicans rising up to the top through the governor's ranks.
I think also the fact that the moment the polls closed here at 8, we saw that Newsom has won his reelection handily, and Alex Padilla, the senator, has won.
Who he appointed.
But again, it shows there has not been a Republican to win statewide in California in, what, 10 years?
We could see that tonight possibly change with the controller's race, but yes, it has been a while since Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California. But Newsom is very much the leader now in the state of California, and where he goes with this remains to be seen. He faces tremendous challenges here. We haven't seen a lot of improvement in the homelessness. We haven't seen improvement a lot in the housing that he promised. As a matter of fact, it's fallen short. He still has problems getting us into the green energy without bankrupting the state. All of these things are ahead of him.
And all of this, look, has worked well for him in California, but if he seeks wider, larger office, these are going to be real issues.
It's going to be a boomerang.
Exactly.
And that's why he's got to concentrate on fixing things, because just if he winds up on the national stage, the first thing they're going to show is California. And as you aptly point out, winning in California does not mean winning in the country.
No, because he'll be painted in some ways nationally as, look, we failed on homelessness, we failed on crime, we failed on a number of other issues. He's going to get beaten up on those issues.
Yeah, but he's so good looking.
No question about that.
It's done well for him so far.
I've had so many political discussions at the end, but the person says, yeah. But, you know, he's so good looking, and he has that charisma, so people just go for it.
But, you know, we have heard from pollsters who have said they've done some internal polling on him, who have said that they've seen that the more people see of him, sometimes the less people like him. So he might face some challenges when it comes to a national audience, certainly.
You know something? How good you look only depends on how good the other person up against you looks.
Right.
Okay, so the trick is you don't have to win, you just have to beat the other guy.
Absolutely. Phil, lots to dig into it.
Yeah, interesting dynamic taking place nationally with governors around the country this year.
We're seeing that rise up. It's not the Senate that's getting the attention right now. It's the governors.
Yeah,
all right.
Good point, Phil.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other hot local races that we're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of local races. In Oakland, there are 10 candidates on the ballot for Oakland mayor. The two candidates who have received the most prominent endorsements are Oakland City Council members Lauren Taylor and Sheng Tao. You see them here on your screen.
Yeah, in San Jose, Mayor Sam Liccardo again has termed out after years in office. Running for mayor today, Santa Clara County Supervisor Cindy Chavez and San Jose City Council member Matt Mahan. The race right now has a razor-thin margin. Less than 1,000 votes separate the two candidates. Mahan is in the lead.
And in Santa Clara County, the race for sheriff is down to two candidates, Bob Johnson and Kevin Jensen. They are running to replace Sheriff Lori Smith, who you might know stepped down just days ago, just days before she was found guilty of corruption charges. She had earlier announced she would not be seeking re-election. And in San Francisco, a race a lot of people are watching, the hot race for district attorney. Interim district attorney Brooke Jenkins office, appointed by Mayor London Breed, is up against 3 candidates. They are lawyers Maurice Chenier, Joe Alioto Vernese, and John Hamasaki. And in Alameda County, whomever wins the vote for district attorney there is going to make history. So this is an interesting race there, too. Both candidates are black, and Alameda County has never had a black district attorney. The 2 candidates on the ballot are civil rights attorney Pamela Price and Terry Wiley, an attorney in the DA's office.
All right. Now, the polls, as we said, closed just a few minutes ago, 11 minutes ago, in fact.
Right. So let's check in with ABC7 News reporter J.R. Stone. He is live at the San Francisco Registrar of Voters. J.R., what's the situation like there right now?
Well, it has been raining through much of the night outside, but that has not stopped so many from coming here to the Department of Elections at San Francisco City Hall and letting their voice be heard. And as I talk about this, you can look at some of the video because it did get pretty busy at times tonight. Before polls even opened in San Francisco today, mail-in ballots that had arrived. That is 30% of the mail-in ballots that were sent out. That's a higher number than we saw in the midterm elections back in 2018. We're likely to start seeing some results in the next hour, but those will be from ballots that came in prior to today, some of that 30%. Now, I asked earlier if the wet and chilly weather has been an issue.
In the morning there was the rain, so we had to put up some plastic sheeting in some garages, especially down in the Sunset, so rain wouldn't get into the garages on the equipment and the poll workers. We got some matting to put down, got some hand warmers for some polling places. But other than that, it's been a regular voting day, or election day for us.
And you are looking live here at San Francisco City Hall. So many people still making their voice heard as they fill out those ballots. Yes, polling closed at 8 o'clock, but for those who are still in line, they are still able to vote. And this is a very long ballot here in San Francisco, 10 pages, 5 pages with stuff on each side. So they are here and they are finishing up, and no rush as long as they were in line at 8 o'clock. And keep in mind, those folks who you saw here who are making their voice heard by voting, these votes will be tallied in the coming days, so we really won't have solid numbers to many of these races for at least 2, 3, 4, 5 days here in San Francisco. So patience is key. Reporting live in San Francisco, J.R. Stone, ABC7 News.
All right, J.R., thank you. A lot on the ballot in San Francisco.
Yeah, and a lot in the South Bay as well. Right. Let's go live to ABC7 News reporter Zach Fuentes, live in San Jose with the races in the South Bay. Zach.
Yeah, lots happening here in the South Bay. If you guys had come to us sooner, you would have seen people sprinting to get in line just before the polls closed at 8 p.m. We saw a couple people doing that, just like JR set up in San Francisco here in the South Bay. As long as people were in line by 8 p.m., they will still be able to vote. And that's what we've been seeing. This parking lot had been filled with people coming to drop off their ballots or vote in person. Now things are changing here. We're seeing the courier teams get ready to bring in the ballots that are coming from the vote centers. And many ballots have already started to be counted. We'll show you some video we got earlier, just about an hour ago, of the ballots being tabulated here in Santa Clara County in the Register of Voters office. They said that they're going to be counting until 11 p.m. and resuming tomorrow at 8 if more counting is needed, which is likely, they tell me. You talked about it earlier, the race for San Jose mayor. It's close, and they suspect that that's really going to be the one that's going to have them counting for a lot longer. Of course, the race that everyone is also looking at throughout the South Bay is the race for Santa Clara County Sheriff. Whoever wins will be the first new sheriff since 1998. So a lot of big races, a lot of big issues happening here in the South Bay that voters will be voting on, that the registrar hopes will bring in a robust voter turnout.
Expecting about a 55 to 65% turnout by all the ballots when they finish coming in by the end of today and the next few days with the postmark. It's been an exciting day. I've been happy that the rain has slowed down, but everything's going really well.
Now, there are more than 130 vote centers, plus this main office in Santa Clara County. So those ballots are coming in now. They expect that process to take about an hour and a half for all of the ballots to get here to the registrar's office from the vote centers. Of course, as long as ballots were postmarked by November 8th, those will be counted too, but those may still be coming in. So a lot of work going on here in Santa Clara County. We're going to continue to monitor all of it and bring you results as we get them. Right now, live in Santa Clara County, Zach Fuentes, ABC7 News.
Okay, Zach, thanks very much. We'll see you shortly.
Yeah, and we do want to get back to ABC7 News insider Phil.
Well, first
Speer.
with some results. We want to start with the governor's race first. We've just got some results coming in, and then we'll get to Phil. With very early returns at this moment, Governor Newsom has 56% of the vote over Brian Daly, 44%. Again, very early on, Governor Newsom expected to win handily as the incumbent.
And into the next race now, we want to show you here for Lieutenant Governor. Also, no surprise here that Democrat Eleni Kounalakis, the current incumbent Lieutenant Governor, is currently with 55% support, with 1% of the estimated total vote in so far. So again, this is very preliminary, but no surprise that these Democrats are taking the lead.
Secretary of State, same story, 55% going to Shirley Weber. The Democrat Rob Bernosky has 45%. Again, very early returns, nothing really to be made of it at this point. We're just giving you the latest results we have as they come in. That will begin to accelerate here as the night goes on.
And Controller here, this is the race that Republicans are hoping that they would have a chance of winning. Lonnie Chen, the Republican, up against Democrat Malia Cohen. Right now, it is tighter than the other races, but again, just 1% of the vote. And right now, Malia Cohen, 51%. Lonnie Chen, 49%.
All right, State Treasurer, let's look at this race. Fiona Ma, the Democrat, has 54% of the vote. She is the incumbent. Jack Guerrero, 46% of the vote for State Treasurer.
And to our next race here, Attorney General Rob Bonta with 60% of the vote. Nathan Hochman, 40%. Again, the Democrats taking the lead.
Yeah, in the Insurance Commissioner race, Ricardo Lara is the incumbent and has 54% of the vote. Robert Howell, the Republican challenger, has 46%. Again, just 1% of the estimated total vote now in.
And Alex Padilla, we told you earlier, he is projected, the Senator Alex Padilla is projected to win his term as senator. Remember, he was appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom. So this is the first time he's actually been on the ballot. He was up against Republican Mark Muser, and you can see here he has 60% of the vote so far, and he is projected to win.
You know, Phil, I want to ask you this. You know, around the country, so much of the decisions being made tonight are gas and groceries, and then the abortion issue has loomed large for a lot of people. What do you think is driving the vote here in California?
Same thing. I mean, it is. I mean, what people are looking at, also crime. Public safety is very big in California. And as interesting as you read out those numbers, you notice that the Republicans are hitting 40, 40, 40.
Right.
And some people might be surprised that there's that strong of a showing in all blue California. It shows that there is a certain amount of Democrats, a certain amount of Republicans, and a large number of independents. And the question is, where are those independents going? They might not go there tonight, but are they moving in a more moderate or conservative way, driven in part by gas prices, by homelessness, and by public safety.
And I think we're going to try and look and see that in some of the local Bay Area races here in terms of the DA race in Alameda County, the DA race in San Francisco. Do voters want a progressive prosecutor, someone who's going to focus on criminal justice reform, or do they want someone who has that tough on crime rhetoric?
Or both, but they want something sort of in the middle.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be seeing in the Oakland mayor's race. Where is the Bay Area headed? London Breed had put Brooke Jenkins in the district attorney's office. That was controversial. We were the ones that recalled the progressive district attorney, recalled the progressive Board of Education in San Francisco, made national news doing that. We're going to see tonight whether the state wants to continue in that direction or go back.
As more and more people got frustrated with the serious problems in San Francisco.
And with the serious problems in the state. So some of what you're seeing possibly in these numbers against the incumbent Democrats, how much is a question of how much is ideological and how much is a protest vote?
Interesting. How much of it do you think is reflective of the poor approval ratings that Joe Biden has?
All of it. A lot of if you look at the approval ratings of the mayors in the Bay Area, they're in the tank as well. I mean, it's poor approval ratings for anybody just about that's in office.
Governor Newsom's doing pretty well, and we'll continue that. We'll continue to talk about that. But because we are talking about crime and the district attorney's race in San Francisco, I think we should get to Stephanie Sierra, who's live there tracking that race.
Stephanie.
Yes, Dan and Liz, excuse me. Tonight, San Francisco voters will decide, do they want to continue with this tough on crime tone across the city or revert back to more progressive policies? The candidates on the ballot for this race offer both perspectives, but interim DA Brooke Jenkins, who was appointed after Chesa Boudin was recalled, is favored to win tonight. That's according to 2 recent polls. And we're watching these results, which are expected, the first batch, to come in just about 20 minutes now. In the last 4 months since she assumed office, Jenkins has enforced new policies that bring stricter penalties for drug dealers and juveniles in certain extreme cases. Her supporters believe she is setting a new tone, keeping her promise to hold violent repeat offenders accountable and clean up San Francisco. But her short tenure hasn't come without controversy. She's been criticized of having too cozy of a relationship with Mayor London Breed, being paid more than $100 grand from a nonprofit closely connected to the Boudin recall campaign, and most recently took heat from opponents over allegations she illegally sent confidential emails before she resigned from Boudin's office. We talked with her about that and her opponent, former Police Commissioner John Hamasaki. Here's what he had to say.
When the mayor appointed her, that she did have some ethical issues in her past. The amount that has come out since then, I think, is frankly shocking, including the rap sheet scandal that just happened last week. That's something every first day district attorney employee knows. You have to sign a paper when you start. I will not share these rap sheets because it is confidential and protected information.
I have yet to hear one of my opponents actually make a comment or a criticism against one of the policies that I've enacted in the office, meaning the way that we're doing this work. The only criticisms that they've been able to lodge are personal attacks and other things that, in my view, are simply to distract voters from the real issues.
The candidates running against Jenkins in this race are former police commissioner and criminal defense attorney John Hamasaki, who you just heard from, attorney Joe Alioto-Vernesi, and attorney Maurice Chenier. Again, recent polling has found Jenkins ahead of all of them by double digits. And I want to emphasize a key point Jenkins made during the recall and throughout her campaign, has been criticizing the lenient outcomes of cases facing repeat and violent offenders, a promise she made that she would change, unlike her predecessor, Chesa Boudin. And it's important to point out, Jenkins' charging rate is similar to that of Chesa Boudin's, but she argues the dispositions of those cases are different. And we have fact-checked that so far from the data that's available on her website and found a majority of the cases convicted have been charged as felony convictions, not misdemeanors, in terms of the majority of those cases. So it is falling in line with her messaging there, Dan and Liz. And if elected, Jenkins will serve the remainder of Boudin's term through 2023.
All right, Stephanie, thank you very much.
It's interesting, too, when we talk about some of these issues, when San Francisco Standard did recent polling where they just showed how frustrated San Franciscans are on these topics of homelessness, crime, and they're really fed up and they want to send a message.
Yeah, and that really sort of accelerated during the pandemic.
Exactly.
And people were at home and they saw a rise in break-ins and everything else. And the recall of Chesa Boudin was as an example of the level of frustration.
And I think we're seeing more people pay attention to these local races in a way that they weren't doing before. And I think that's also because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And people started...
And they were home. They were home.
Right. They saw their school boards and they started paying attention.
All right. We're going to pause here for a moment to update our viewers over on ABC7 with a live update. But as we move into that segment, we want to share some of the latest results for you that are coming in. We'll be back here in just a moment. Stay with us.
Live election coverage, on air, online, and streaming on the ABC7 Bay Area app. Now from ABC7, your voice, your vote.
Hi, everybody. Dion Lim here in the ABC7 newsroom. And yes, polls across California are now closed. As results come in, we are posting them at our website, ABC7news.com. You may have been watching. We are live streaming updates ever since 8 o'clock and will continue to do so until 11 tonight. Now, current governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is seeking his second term at the state's top spot. He is up against challenger Brian Daly. You can see on your screen Gavin with quite a significant lead. He is projected, by the way, by ABC News to be the winner. We will, of course, stay on top of this in case anything changes. Moving on now to Attorney General. The candidates there, Democrat Rob Bonta and Republican Nathan Hochman. The governor appointed Bonta to the position. Now he is running to be elected to it. We will get you those numbers as soon as they come into our ABC7 newsroom. All right, we do have our team of reporters scattered all across the Bay Area and some Alameda County results. Those may actually take days to be released. ABC7 News reporter Ansar Hassan joins us live now in Oakland to explain this. Ansar, a little bit complicated here.
Dion, let's try to see if we can figure this out. Any minute now, the Alameda County Registrar of Voters is supposed to release early numbers from early voting. At 9 o'clock, they'll start to release the numbers from in-person voting. But here in Oakland, because of the mayor's race as ranked choice voting, the numbers that we're going to get, officials tell me, will only be from people's first pick. So it may be a few more days until we get the complete ranked choice voting numbers in. Now, two front runners have emerged. Oakland Vice Mayor Sheng Tao and Oakland City Council member Lauren Taylor. Both of them are holding parties later on tonight. Maybe when some of these early numbers come in, we'll have a better understanding of who's in the lead. Reporting live, Ansar Hassan, ABC7 News.
All right, we shall wait and see. Ansar, thanks. Well, meantime, voters in the Bay Area's biggest city are also choosing a new leader. Let's get to ABC7 News reporter Amanda Del Castillo, once again live with us in San Jose with the mayor's race and developments there. Hey, Amanda.
Yeah, I am live from the headquarters of longtime politician Cindy Chavez. The Santa Clara County supervisor is up against San Jose City Councilman Matt Mahan in tonight's mayoral race. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see and get a live view of what's going on here. Volunteers, supporters, family, and friends all trickling in, watching closely to learn who will be the city's new mayor. It has been nearly 30 minutes since the polls closed, so it's early yet, but latest update from the county shows Mahan ahead by a razor-thin margin, up about 1,100 votes. Now, there was never any doubt this was going to be a tight race for the two, and we want to get you to video taken at the start of the day. The two campaigns providing video of the candidates hitting the polls. Political newcomer Mahan tonight, of course, following results from his own election party, both ready to replace outgoing Mayor Sam Liccardo, who has termed out after 8 years in office. Now, concerns from voters reflect the top priorities for both Chavez and Mahan. Each promised to focus on homelessness, affordable housing, public safety, and combating crime. Now, the challenge will be affecting change in the 10th largest city in the country, and we are expecting that next update from Santa Clara County at 8:45. For now, I'm reporting live in San Jose. Amanda Del Castillo, ABC7 News.
All right, looking forward to that update when the time comes. Amanda, many thanks. Now, a reminder, as those results come in, we are posting them at our website, ABC7news.com. You can check back here for updates all night, or download the ABC7 Bay Area app for your smartphone and set up those notifications. That way we will send you an alert when those new results are in. And our election results live stream, that will continue all the way through 11 o'clock tonight. To tune in and join us, just download our ABC7 Bay Area app on your smartphone or smart TV. I'm Dion Lim in the ABC7 newsroom. Let's get you back to streaming or network coverage with David Muir and our team of political analysts and correspondents.
Welcome back to our special election coverage here on ABC7. I'm Liz Kreutz.
And I'm Dan Ashley, joined by Phil Mateer and our entire team on this really interesting and important election night. Beginning to get more results in. The polls have closed for about half an hour now, and we want to update you on the latest results that we have.
Yes, we do have results for the governor office. ABC News can project that Governor Gavin Newsom will serve a second term as governor of California. No surprise here, 61% of the vote right now, just 2% of the vote in right now, but he will serve a second term.
Yeah, same story for the incumbent Eleni Koulounakis, the lieutenant governor, 62% of the vote over challenger Angela Underwood Jacobs, who has 38%. It looks like the expectation is that Koulounakis will win another term.
And moving on now, we also know that Secretary of State Shirley Weber, again, also likely to win here, 61% of the vote right now.
And next up, the state controller, Malia Cohen, Democrat, has 57% over Lani Chen has 43%. 7% of the estimated vote count is in, again, very early, but that's where we are at this moment.
And the treasurer here, Fiona Ma, 60% of the vote. She's up against Republican Jack Guerrera. Fiona Ma, the incumbent as well, with 60%.
And Rob Bonta, the incumbent in the Attorney General's race, has 62% of the vote over Nathan Hochman.
And Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara, 61%, up against Republican Robert Howell.
U.S. Senate race, Alex Padilla, the incumbent, the Democrat, has 61% of the vote, 3% of the estimated total vote in over Mark Musser, 39%. That's the Senate seat. We also are focusing on a congressional district as well. We'll talk about that in just a moment.
Yeah, this is Kevin Mullen here, a Democrat, up against David Canepa, also a Democrat. Kevin Mullen with 58% of the vote, and it sounds like we do have some results in that race. So I do think we want to get to Tim Johns shortly to get an update from him, if we have Tim. Let's get to Tim for an update. Tim, what are you hearing there?
Yeah, Liz, I've got to tell you, as you say, I'm here at the watch party for Kevin Mullins. We just heard a big scream of excitement as those initial results were coming in. Kevin Mullin, of course, having a pretty sizable lead over his opponent, David Canepa. Supervisor Canepa, who, of course, was the president of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, did indeed just concede this race. We are expecting Mr. Mullin and the person he is going to be succeeding, Congresswoman Jackie Speer, to arrive here at the party in just a couple of minutes or so. So we're going to be on the lookout for that. But I have to say, this has been one of the most closely watched races in the Bay Area solely because it is, of course, Jackie Speer's seat. Congresswoman Speer has been in this district for almost 15 years now. And as we all know, congressional seats here in the Bay Area do not open up that often. We did go out and talk to voters in this district earlier as well today. And of course, when Mr. Mullins does indeed succeed Ms. Speer, he will have big shoes to fill. Some of the things that voters tell us they are most interested in is, of course, the economy, inflation, homelessness, crime throughout the Bay Area. And of course, we here, like I said, we're going to be waiting for Mr. Mullin to arrive. We will be talking to him very soon and have the latest updates on his initial reaction. I'm in San Mateo County. Tim Johns, ABC7 News.
Tim, thank you very much. The other issue that has become a big national issue, of course, is a woman's right to choose. And that is on the ballot in California. And there's some breaking news tonight about Proposition 1, which would enshrine a woman's right to choose. It's already state law in California, but this would enshrine it in the Constitution.
Yes, and we can project that this has passed here in California. The group behind this proposition is claiming victory right now. Take a listen.
People will have to travel outside of the state that they live in order to get the care that they need. That doctors, before they do what they know is what they took the oath to do, which is best medical care for their patients, are oftentimes in over half the country having to call their lawyer before they can provide the care that they were trained to do. That's not good enough. And we will continue fighting. We will continue doing the work. Prop 1 is just the start of that work, and we know that that's true. But today, we will celebrate and be really proud of the work that we've done here today, because it is heard around the country that California, here in California, no matter what the culture of fear and confusion that other people are trying to stoke in those other states, here in California, we are here to tell you we are a reproductive freedom state, and our Constitution will be enshrined that you have a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, including abortion and contraception for forever. So super proud of that, and want to thank everybody. I know the room is filled with stakeholders and filled with people that worked really, really hard, and I hope we're all celebrating tonight. And thank you so much, my co-chair, that we worked so hard on it. I'm so proud. Thank you.
I think we're happy to take a few questions before we celebrate. Sure.
Which one? Both?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I know there's been
All right, you just listened to Gilda Gonzalez, the CEO of Planned Parenthood, really sounding triumphant over the apparent passage of Prop 1 in California. Not a surprise, of course, that passed in California.
But it is something that Democrats have poured a lot of money into. $17 million have been poured into getting this to pass, and it was expected to pass. And you might say, why are Democrats pouring so much money into something they know will pass? And it's because they see abortion as an issue that will get Democrats to the polls.
And it certainly has done that. And it's gotten a lot of people, Democrats and even some Republicans, to the polls in other parts of the country who were conflicted about the Supreme Court decision. It's driven a lot of voters. And of course, California is a bellwether on this issue. It was already the law of the land, but this enshrines it in the Constitution of California.
Exactly, but it still is a very divisive issue. So Karina Nova, we want to get over to you. You're at the big board right now. You're digging into the results even further to see who in the state or the areas in the states that are voting for this prop. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Liz, Dan, so as the ballots are being counted, we're able to see it in real time right here with this map. And you can see for Prop 1 right now, 6% of the estimated total vote has been counted, and it's winning 76% to 24, as we just saw projected to win here in California. And we can see which counties voted against it and take a look at those numbers. So right here we have Tulare County voted 50% no, 50% yes, but there's a 357 number of difference, so that those are just the votes right there. So a very small difference there in the yeses versus no. And then we can take a look here at this county, Kings County. Again, 39% of the estimated total vote, and you're seeing just 48% of the people voting yes for it, 52% voting no. But again, a small difference there, just 667 votes separating those two. But again, Prop 1, as you just heard, is winning here. We can go back to the totals for the state there, 76%. And you can see every county that's in green right here on this map. Those are the ones that voted yes for it, and the counties that are in red, we can add this one to it too. Lassen County there, 98% estimated total vote, and you can see it's fairly close, 46% yes, 54% no. Just 261 votes make that difference. So a fairly small amount, but you can see that county there voting against it. So we're going to go back to the totals. I want to show you some of the other props that we're looking at, because we can see those results coming in. A big one that we've talked about for a long time is Prop 26 and Prop 27. I'll show you that here in just a second. So this has to do with gaming and gambling here in California. 9% estimated total votes. So we still have a long ways to go, but you can see it's fairly close, a 49% yes to a 51% no. And again, here you can see which counties are voting against it and which counties are voting for it. And if I click right here, you're going to see how Prop 27 is doing. This is the one that has to do with sports gambling. Again, 31% yes, 69% no. So you can see the difference there. Let's move on. Take a look at Prop 28. So this is the one that ties to K through 12 art education. And you can see winning by a big number. Even though 9% of the total estimated vote has been counted, 78% are voting yes for it. It looks like just one county is saying no to that, and that is Lassen County there. But again, Look how close this is. Just 15 votes separating the yeses and the nos. Moving on, we're going to take a look at Prop 29, and this is the one that has been on the ballot for multiple times that has to do with dialysis. And you could see 62% voting yes for this, 38% no. Again, a 9% estimated total vote, so we still have a long ways to go in terms of those votes coming in. But let's take a look here. So this is when this was on the ballot in 2020, and you can see that these were the numbers then. 37% yes, 63% no, and as we know in 2020, it didn't pass, but you can see the counties in red there that voted no, and then the counties in green that voted yes. Okay, so moving on, we're going to take a look at Prop 30. In Prop 30, the measure would increase the income tax on people making more than $2 million a year, and then we of course know that this would help people buy more electric vehicles and make the improvements to state firefighting and wildfire prevention. You can see right now, it looks like with 9% estimated total vote, 70% saying yes and 30% saying no. Fairly large difference for now. Again, it's still early on, 744,000 there. And then a quick look at Prop 31. This is the one that has to do with flavored tobacco. And you can see as of right now, 78% of the state saying yes to pass that. So we're getting the numbers in, the ballots are being counted, and this updates in real time so we can show you, like I showed you here just a moment ago, county by county, who's voting yes, who's voting no. And we can also take a look at some of the other races, governor's races, lieutenant governor, AG, U.S. House, and take a look at more detailed vote counts for those as well as we take a look at the counties and the state. So we'll check back in with you. Dan and Liz, back to you for now.
Outstanding. What a tool you have there at our disposal.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Thank you, Karina. Nice job with that.
All right, Phil, I do want to go back to Proposition 1, which we just reported has passed, the proposition that will enshrine abortion rights into the state constitution. And Democrats have really been hitting hard on abortion rights because they know it's an issue that is a winning issue for them, and they're hoping it will drive out voters. So my question to you, we're following some really key House races in California, House races that are toss-ups that could impact who controls the House nationally. Do you think that there are voters in some of these House races who will go to the polls and vote yes on Prop 1, but then vote Republican down their ballot?
Well, let's just take a look at what we see so far. If you notice on most of the statewide races, it's running Democrats 55 to 60% in favor of Democrats, about 40% Republican. When we look at Proposition 1, the enshrinement of the right to have an abortion in California, that's only opposed by 24%. So what we're seeing is Republicans who showed up and voted Republican for the candidate also voted in favor of choice.
Right, exactly what Liz just said. Yeah,
exactly.
This is the issue that is so divisive.
Right, but when they're going to the poll and they're picking a candidate, they're picking party preference.
Right.
But on an issue like this, they're going, no, I'm going
they're
this way.
essentially pro-choice Republicans.
Right. So that's the question that you're going to have in these split districts. Did you get the Democrats out? Yes, but also Republicans showed up and they
voted
as well, but not in lockstep.
Well, we knew from national polling after the Supreme Court decision that something like 83%, if that number, if not 81 or 83% of Americans polled say they are in favor of a woman's right to choose.
So it's a question: do you have
a lot of Republicans?
Do you have a wedge issue, or do you have something that there's sort of a quiet consensus on?
But it's interesting because we're not hearing Republicans change their messaging on abortion, despite these poll numbers.
We heard them pull back.
They did pull.
They pulled back from that
California, we just didn't hear it.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
And nationally, a lot of them pulled away from that issue, and they focused on crime instead.
And they doubled down on it.
Yeah, it was a bit radioactive.
So you push this out there as this issue, and the question is, we'll see it here, we'll see it across the country. Did they vote for a cause, or did they vote for a candidate?
Right.
And if given a choice between, they'll vote one way for the cause and the other way for the candidate.
So they did both.
Yes.
Right. And there are some Democrats, of course, they were hoping that people go out in these key House races, and if they're going to vote yes on Prop 1, their hope is that they will then vote for the Democratic candidate.
Exactly.
And that's their hope. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
All right, let's turn our attention once again to the San Jose mayor's race, because that's been interesting to watch. Sam Liccardo, of course, termed out of office. Amanda Del Castillo is live in San Jose covering that for us tonight. Amanda?
Yeah, Dan, candidate Cindy Chavez just walked into her campaign headquarters here in the heart of the Willow Glen neighborhood in San Jose. I want to step out of the way so you can see the crowd that is gathered here. Family, friends, volunteers, everyone ready to see Cindy Chavez win. Last update from the county came just about five minutes ago. Okay, and we're going to listen to Governor Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, Amanda, we're going to interrupt you for a second because the governor is speaking.
Yeah, let's take a listen into Governor Newsom.
She's coming out.
People of California took in unambiguous terms to assert our values and to go on the offense and to state overwhelmingly that we are a freedom state, that we support the rights of women and girls, reproductive care, reproductive rights now are enshrined in the Constitution of the state of California. Contraceptive rights are enshrined in the Constitution of the state of California. Privacy is enshrined. That's a point of pride, and it's a point of principle, and it's a point of contrast at a time of such mixed results all across this country. The dust will settle on those results, but one thing that is settled here today is who we are as a state and what we hold dear in terms of our values. Freedom, a belief in family, and I'm so honored and proud to be here with my 4 kids that, you know, like all of our children and my remarkable wife, you know, it's been hard. The last few years have been difficult for all of us. A stacking of stress, all the anxiety, the fear that all of us have had in terms of our professional and personal lives, what's going on in this country, the deep polarization in this country. And no one feels that more than our kids. And so it's a point of pride being here with them as well, particularly with so many remarkable leaders that were here. The idea that we're living in a society where our kids and grandkids potentially may not experience the rights and privileges and liberties that so many of us have taken for granted is not lost on any of us. And that's why I want to commend the entire coalition of Prop 1. I want to commend the pro tem, Tony Atkins. I want to commend the Speaker, Anthony Rendon, to Jody Hicks and her team. It was a remarkable effort. And I was saying, Jody, just a moment ago, and to all of you, how proud I am that we affirmed clearly with conviction that we are a true freedom state, that we embrace the rights of women and girls. And I made the point that it is a point of contrast with the uncertainty that we're currently experiencing as it relates to the national mood. But in California, we have asserted ourselves with clarity and conviction, as only California can. And it's a point of pride as well, because we recognize we have a lot more work to do. And I was talking about a little humility, you know, having the opportunity to represent the people of this state, 40 million Americans strong, the most diverse state in the world's most diverse democracy, where the issues of diversity are being challenged in states large and small, rights that we've come all to enjoy.
All right, and this is Governor Gavin Newsom, victory speech tonight. He is going to serve another term as governor of California, and it comes just over a year since he defeated that recall.
Yeah.
So.
He's also talking a lot about Proposition 1, which is going to pass tonight. Exactly. Let's go back now. Amanda Del Castillo is covering Cindy Chavez and the mayor's race.
First of all, I just am so grateful to all of you. I actually want to take a picture of you, and I left my phone down there, so Mike's got it. But I wanted to start by just saying how really, really grateful I am. I walked in tonight, and I saw folks who have volunteered thousands of hours. Like, one of the first people I walked in and saw was Jill. Thank you. Like, well done. Amazing. Dolly Sandoval. And friends came from all over to help walk precincts. And the Siegel family and her beautiful daughter, Madeline. You know, there's a million stories in this room, and I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. I know that we're going to be watching ballots get counted late into the night, and it's going to be like I told everybody, this was going to be so close, so close. And so we don't know yet the outcome, but I wanted to start. I didn't want anybody to leave without hearing me say how really, really grateful I am, how incredibly excited I am about the future of San Jose. I wanted to start by saying some thank yous. I wanted to start by saying thank you to my husband, Mike. You all know him, which is why you're cheering for him. I think my mom is still here, Carmen.
Oh, great. All right, this is Cindy Chavez talking. She has not won the mayor's race, but she's clearly in a good mood down there. So we're continuing to watch a very close race. 10 candidates vying to replace termed out Mayor Sam Liccardo. Cindy Chavez speaking live.
Yeah, and let's get to our political analyst, Melinda Jackson from San Jose State University. She's joining us via Zoom. If Dr. Jackson's there, good to see you. We always love that you join us on election night, so it's good to have you back. Thanks for being here. So tell us, what are you following in this race? We just heard Cindy Chavez speak. What are you tracking in this San Jose mayor's race? What are the key issues at play?
Yeah, so given that the governor's race was not very competitive this year, you know, these local races like mayor have really been getting a lot more attention, and this San Jose mayor's race is going to be quite close. The issues are really similar to many cities around the Bay Area and around California. It's housing, affordable housing, and dealing with the homeless crisis. It's cost of living in general. It's public safety, and particularly funding the police and getting more police officers, for example, and addressing crime. So those are the top issues that are on voters' minds. We really have a divide between these two candidates, with a very experienced politician in Cindy Chavez versus a relative newcomer with Matt Mahan, only been on the city council for a couple of years, but Mahan does have the backing of outgoing Mayor Sam Liccardo and some of the business community interests in San Jose. So it'll be very interesting to see how this race turns out. It is, I think, one of the hot races that people are really watching this year.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's that old saying, Melinda, all politics is local, and that is never more clear than when you talk about mayor's races, because that's a job, the rubber meets the road. What is the sense of the challenge ahead for whoever's elected? Sam Liccardo, you know, was a pretty popular mayor, considered, I think, fairly effective down there. I wouldn't say big shoes to fill, but a fairly successful job that he did. What do you think is the biggest challenge for the next incoming mayor?
Well, I think definitely the issues around housing. And we're seeing this not just in San Jose, but many of the local measures on the ballot around the Bay Area. I mean, this is just such a persistent challenge here. We don't have enough housing. We have a large and growing homeless population. And, you know, we need to find ways to address this issue. A lot of things have been tried. Some progress has been made, but it is still a persistent problem that has not been solved. And, you know, so I think whether it's, you know, really finding ways to streamline the approval processes, to build more housing, to find ways to make sure at least some of that housing is affordable for people, providing more tenant protections, as well as finding shelter for our unhoused population. I mean, all of these things are really, you know, what is being talked about by both candidates.
And also, of course,
so that's housing, and then also the public safety issues that I think are very much on people's minds.
And I think also, given the changing economy, Silicon Valley is about to experience some real tough times, because layoffs are beginning to happen, and that's going to be an issue. Phil Mateer has a question for you, Melinda.
You're very clear on the issues and what faces the next person that becomes mayor of San Jose. But the question is, what are the differences between the two? Are there significant differences, or is this a question of, you know, sort of an inter-family fight between two factions of San Jose? I mean, are they divergent in their approaches to public safety, housing, and the homeless?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Matt Mahan is really pointing the finger and saying, well, look at all the experience that Cindy Chavez has had as a former city council member, as a county supervisor. You know, you've had time to solve the problem and haven't done it. I'm going to take a new approach. I'm going to really try to get that housing built faster and streamline those approval processes. And I think Cindy Chavez, on the other hand, is saying, look, it's a really complex issue, and we have made some progress with some bond measures that have provided some funding, but these things take time, and we need to, go with that more collaborative approach. So it's really not such a huge difference in tactics. Right. It's, I think, more a difference of really looking at the record and whether people want to, trust, again, the person Melinda, with the track record and the experience, or whether Melinda, they really want to say, you know what, let's go with a completely new person, Melinda, new approach.
I've got to interrupt you. I'm sorry. We've got a hard stop here in just a second. You're always so valuable to us. We'll come back later on. But we have to take a quick break.
Yeah, and we're going to just show you some local results before we go to ABC7 News for an update on the results this evening. Take a look.
No, I just
we do.
Live election coverage, on air, online, and streaming on the ABC7 Bay Area app. Now from ABC7, your voice, your vote.
Hi, everybody. Deon Lim here once again, joining you from the ABC7 newsroom, where we continue tracking the very latest election results for you tonight as they come in. And already, Governor Gavin Newsom has won re-election. You see the overwhelming results on your screen. Those votes coming in at 62% in favor of Governor Newsom. And State Proposition 1, that has also passed, which adds the fundamental right to reproductive freedom into the state constitution. You see there overwhelmingly voting yes at 69%, 2.7 some million votes, perhaps both of those races not to be unexpected. Now, just moments ago, we heard from the newly re-elected governor. Let's take a listen.
I'm humbled. This is my third election in 4 years, and I'm deeply humbled by the results. Deeply humbled to have the privilege of extending my term as governor of the state of California. But I'm also deeply motivated and mindful of all the energy in this room, particularly the affirmative step the state of California took, the people of California took, in unambiguous terms to assert our values and to go on the offense and to state overwhelmingly that we are a freedom state, that we support the rights of women and girls, reproductive care, reproductive rights now are enshrined in the Constitution of the state of California. Contraceptive rights are enshrined in the Constitution of the state of California. Privacy is enshrined. That's a point of pride, and it's a point of principle, and it's a point of contrast.
All right, well, stay with us for everything Your Voice, Your Vote, all the way up until 11 o'clock tonight for ABC7 News.
And welcome back to our continuing election night coverage. Dan Ashley, along with Liz Kreutz. We're waiting for something, but it's going to happen in a second. We're getting some new results in, so we're going to bring you those as we continue.
Exactly, and we're also tracking the district attorney races in 2 cities, San Francisco and Alameda County, San Francisco County and Alameda County. Phil Mateer,
it's going to be an interesting thing in some of these races as we go on, is that ranked choice voting, or the way that we've done it in San Francisco and Alameda, might mean that it's going to take a while to get the final results.
Right.
So they might not come tonight. What we're going to be seeing is possibly how people are doing in the first round. So everybody's sort of
we may have to wait Wednesday, Thursday, even later than that.
You know, I think that's a unique thing to the Bay Area.
Right,
okay.
exactly.
We're going to talk more about that in a moment, but let's take you over to Oakland for a moment.
Yeah, Julian Glover is in Oakland right now outside the Alameda County Registrar of Voters office, tracking that really heated race for district attorney. Julian.
Hey,
yes, certainly heated, and we got our first drop of results just a short time ago, about 38 minutes ago, and I want to give them to you so far with 123 votes so far being counted. Terry Wiley is leading Pamela Price. The current percentages: Wiley 52.16%, Pamela Price 47.84%. The difference, though, when we talk about votes, only about 5,000 votes difference. I want to step out of the way and show you what's happening right now outside of the Alameda County Registrar's office. We know some of those mail-in ballots that were dropped off at those drop boxes, and also various voting centers are being dropped off now here at the Alameda County Registrar of Voters. I want to give you some more information on this really hot race here. When we talk about the DA's race, we have Pamela Price again versus Terry Wiley. Price is the reform candidate campaigning on progressive policies. We're talking about things like ending cash bail. Now, she served as a civil rights lawyer for decades here in Alameda County, and she's facing off against Terry Wiley, who is a 32-year veteran of the DA's office, who now serves as chief deputy DA. That makes him the number 3 in the DA's office currently. He's campaigning on a more pragmatic approach to the job. They do agree on some issues like never seeking the death penalty and increased transparency, but they disagree on their message surrounding law enforcement accountability and what to do with the crowded Santa Rita jail.
Most people do not need to be held in Santa Rita County Jail. They are either not a flight risk or they're not a danger to themselves or to other people. And even if they're a danger to themselves, that is not the place for mental health treatment.
We also want to make sure the community is safe, and we're not going to be releasing people who've committed murder, rape, and robbery just for the sake of having fewer people in Santa Rita Jail.
Now, Price said she would decrease the jail population by 25% in her first term by expanding diversion programs and decreasing the use of cash bail. Her opponent, Terry Wiley, agreed on limiting cash bail for nonviolent property crimes, but would not commit to decreasing the jail population. Again, both candidates trying to replace retiring DA Nancy O'Malley after 13 years on the job. We should point out this is Pamela Price's second attempt at it. She ran against O'Malley back in 2018, obviously not victorious here. Again, back here live, we want to show you what's happening. So many of those ballots that were stuffed into those ballot boxes all across Alameda County now making it here to the registrar's office. And thank the folks that you see on your screen right now. They have been braving some intense downpours here in Oakland. The sky's opening up at one point, but they have been out here working around the clock, making sure those votes get to where they need to be so they can be counted. Dan, Liz, I think you've mentioned it already tonight, but history will certainly be made here in Alameda County no matter who wins, either Pamela Price or Terry Wiley. The voters here will be electing their first black district attorney in the county's history. For now, reporting live here in Oakland tonight, I'm Julian Glover, ABC7 News.
All right, those are hard workers there out on our election day. We truly appreciate it. Julian, thank you for that update.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
All right, let's turn now back to Phil Mateer and talk a little bit more about the vote count in the district attorney's race, and also just the voting process in Oakland that is going to take a little bit of time, especially the mayor's race, ranked choice voting. It's a bit cumbersome.
Before we do that, I'd like to highlight a little thing what Julian was talking about. He said making history is going to be Alameda County's first black district attorney. Well, we'll have a black district attorney in Contra Costa County.
Right.
In Alameda County and in San Francisco County. That would be a first. Assuming Brooke Jenkins continues her lead. All right. We also could have 3 women running. public safety is the sort of the pivotal issue right now, and it's going to be very interesting tonight how it turns out, whether it goes to the progressive era or goes back to the moderate. It's going to be interesting to see. And the Oakland's,
what is your sense?
My sense is that it's going towards the middle, but Alameda County is distinctively different than San Francisco, and that's what we're going to be seeing. San Francisco went to the progressive, then came back. Los Angeles went progressive and started a recall against George Gascon. Now we're seeing
all of this fueled by crime numbers and frustration that people are having in their local cities.
Exactly, and some of it created by us who went and voted for Proposition 47 that changed the laws that allowed for felonies to become misdemeanors. So it's going around. It's going to be interesting tonight. It could be a little frustrating for people in the Oakland mayor's race, for example, or in San Francisco. We're going to get what they call tonight, we're going to be getting the first place votes. That is, in ranked choice voting, you have a number of candidates and you vote them ranked. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the bottom one, if they fall out and don't get enough votes, their second and third votes transfer up. It's a bit confusing. Sometimes I feel like I'd have a better shot playing the lottery, but that's the way it goes. But we're going to get the first place, and it won't be until Thursday that we have the final answer.
And in San Francisco, we're not going to get, the votes being released tonight are votes that came in prior to today. They're not counting today's votes.
It does
that will
feel
happen over the next few
like
days.
this is a newer conversation we're having, though, about patience, nationally and locally, about patience when it comes to voting. And is that because of the push to vote by mail?
Yes. What we used to have absentee votes that came in earlier. Vote by mail was a certain block that came in early, and they were opened up, and then they would change over the course of a night. Now what we're seeing, and this is how it plays out nationally, you're seeing the day of vote is the first one counted. And then all of the mail votes that have come in and continue to come in and continue to come in, are opened up. So what happens is we have this delay where somebody could be in the lead tonight, and then over the course of a week or so, that could change.
But again, to point out, in San Francisco, it's the reverse of that. They're counting the ballots that came in prior to today.
Yes, they do that. But now what they do is all the mail comes in and can come in to a week after today, if you postmark it today.
And
that's where a lot of the conspiracy theories come out.
Well, and some of this, to your point a little bit, there's increasing, or after what happened 2 years ago, this sort of paranoia and fear that elections aren't being, all around the country, registrars have been putting in cameras so people can watch the votes be counted. There's this sense that there's a paranoia that it's not an honest system, which of course we know that it is. That's not to say mistakes aren't made. But.
No, and it's really tough to do voter fraud. I mean, it is not an easy thing to do. But what you have is you have your first night results, and a lot of times Republicans vote day of. They tend to vote day of. So their numbers are sometimes big out of the gate. And then they lose the margin to the Democrats that come in later through the vote by mail. And that's where the conspiracy comes in. And as the more we go vote by mail, the more we see this.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And it takes longer.
And it will take a while for us to get those votes in San Francisco.
We are naturally, this great combination of schizophrenia in America, where we want instant results, but we have to make sure that they're perfectly all right.
Exactly.
We're tough to please on election day.
And when it doesn't happen right away, we go, what's the problem here? And then after we get it right away, we say, was it fair?
Well, to your point, after the early vote comes in, like 2 years ago, heavily Republican, and then it changes overnight because of those other ballots, that's when the suspicion came.
Exactly.
Tampering with these written ballots.
And here's the fundamental rule. Here's the fundamental that trumps them all, pun intended. Nobody has questions about voter validity unless it's close. And when it's close, there's always questions.
Sure, right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Phil. And we do want to continue talking about San Francisco politics. We're going to get to San Francisco Standard reporter Josh Kane. I believe he's joining us via Zoom to break down some of these important races in San Francisco. Josh, thanks for joining us. What are some of the races that you're tracking in San Francisco tonight that you're keeping your eye on?
Hey, good evening. Thank you for having me. Right now, we're obviously looking at District Attorney Brooke Jenkins' race. She has got a pretty substantial lead right out the gate. We're also looking at a few supervisor races and, of course, some ballot propositions that are going to really change the priorities for the city in the years to come.
Josh, you've been reporting, obviously, on everything that's been happening in the city in terms of concern about homelessness and crime. How much of that from your experience and your staff's experience, is fueling people at the polls today, and of course their mail-in ballots as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done our own polling ahead of the election, and we found that people are pretty fed up with the status quo in San Francisco when it comes to just the cost of living, cost of housing, which obviously has a big effect on the large number of people who are living on the streets, homeless. That obviously then translates over to some issues with crime, with drug use on the streets, people having mental crises in public. That just seem to go unchecked and not really being assisted in the way that they need to get help. And so all of those things combined has created a mood in which people are demanding answers from their leaders, whether they be in City Hall or in law enforcement. And when it comes to District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, she was put in an appointment by the mayor after the recall of Chesa Boudin. And as we've seen in the early results, obviously, as Phil Mateer was saying, when it comes to ranked choice voting, that could change things. But right now, she's got a commanding lead, and that would suggest that she has a mandate to really be tough on crime and try and clean up the streets.
Josh, Phil here. It's good seeing you today at John's Grill for the Election Day party, where everybody in San Francisco that was running for everything showed up, and everybody that covers it showed up as well. So you must have picked up some gossip. London Breed was there. She's not on the ballot, at least not officially, but her, as you pointed out, her picks are. Her district attorney appointment is on there. Her appointees to the school board after it was recalled are on that ballot. How much does she have at stake here?
You know, that's a fantastic question, and it's actually something I asked her when I was at John's Grill. And I asked her, you know, you have endorsed Matt Dorsey for supervisor in District 6, Joel Engardio in District 4, Brooke Jenkins for DA, and you have appointees on the school board. And I asked her, what happens if voters, you know, say, we want all of these people in office? Does that give you a mandate to really take the lead and really enact even bolder proposals? And she kind of hedged. She said that, you know, it's not about my mandate. It's about the voters basically getting the most basic services they want when it comes to public safety, better schools, paying our teachers on time, and making sure that we're also, you know, being a reform-minded, fair criminal justice system, but also one that doesn't allow rampant drug dealing to go unchecked. And so I think actually, Mayor Breed, this is a huge night for her if the results hold up over the next couple days here, because not only is it just the candidates that she's appointed who could be winning, but then also her stance on certain ballot measures when it comes to the affordable housing measure, Prop D. Right now, that is leading over Prop E. When it comes to her decision on JFK Drive and the Great Highway and keeping it car-free, you know, San Francisco is unique in the way that we get really fired up about certain issues, but people were really, really agitated about the idea that cars could be coming back to this road when it was shut down during the pandemic, and they wanted to keep it open for kids and their families. And those measures that she supported are also winning. So right now, I think Mayor Breed is really having a great night, and she can take this and really use it as momentum in the year to come.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see what's next for her as well in her political career. Josh Kane from the San Francisco Standard, thanks so much for your insight. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Josh. Stand by a bit if you can. And let's go now. Jackie Speer, who of course is leaving Congress, is speaking right now, and her seat is up for grabs tonight. We're watching those results come in. Let's listen to Jackie Speer.
Kevin.
So as he's opening this, I'll explain it to you. It is the American Eagle, and under it it says U.S. Congress. And this is appropriate because the American Eagle is strong, is powerful, soars. But if you look at the eagle, in his talons, on one side are 13 arrows, but the eagle's head is turned to the other, where there are branches of olives with 13 olives. And that's because the American Eagle is all about seeking peace. So as you take on this new role, a good part of your responsibility is seeking peace for this country around the world. And lastly, if he was here tonight, and I'm sure he's looking down very proudly, like, God love G. Mullen, he brought him here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie Speer. So I have 3 speeches. One says loss, one says too close to call, and one says win. I think I'm going to read the win one. Thank you so much, Jackie and Adrian. Ladies and gentlemen of the 15th Congressional District, Team Mullen is going to Washington.
Okay, you're listening to newly elected from the 15th Congressional District, Congressman Kevin Mullen replacing Jackie Speer. A very proud, happy moment for him as he gets ready to head to Washington.
And we want to get to San Francisco now, where interim district attorney Brooke Jenkins is speaking. We don't have results in for her yet, but she is looking quite happy. Take a listen.
They can advocate for victims the way that they know they should without feeling that there will be repercussions. And I also want to thank every single person that spent hours phone banking, hours on street corners, hours doing merchant walks, hours volunteering for this campaign to make sure that people understood what our true mission was, which was public safety, which was the balance between the necessary reforms and accountability so that we could get San Francisco back on track. And I want to thank every single San Franciscan that voted. Thank you so much. You represent that the tide has turned in San Francisco, that we can be a democratic city, that we can be a liberal city, but stand for public safety. I also want to take a moment to thank my husband, who has stood by me, who hasn't got to see a lot of me over the last 4 months, to my mom, who's with our kids at home. Unfortunately, our daughter got sick today, but they have really weathered this storm in a way that just warms my heart. I can't tell you how resilient our family has been through what has been an extremely different, sometimes tumultuous, but very exciting experience. And so I just want to take a moment to thank my family and my friends who have stood by me every second of this journey as we have gotten to this point. But I just want to tell you, I feel very thrilled about where these results are at this point. And just can't tell you how thankful I am to San Francisco and to this army of people who stand for the right thing.
All right, and this is interim district attorney Brooke Jenkins speaking here in San Francisco.
And it's looking like a very good night for her. She, of course, was appointed, replacing Chesa Boudin, who was recalled. Let's turn now. Oakland's been a fascinating story. We've talked about the Alameda County District Attorney's race. Let's talk a little bit more about the mayor's race. Outgoing Mayor Libby Schaaf, 10 candidates trying to replace her. Hi, Libby. Great to have you on. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for being here.
This is an interesting night for you, I suppose. Bittersweet to watch your time come to an end as mayor. What, as you watch the votes come in that race, what are you paying attention to? What are you thinking about tonight?
Well, I'm seeing the early returns showing.
Mayor, you know, we're having trouble hearing you. I think maybe it might be your AirPods in. We're having trouble hearing. Let's see.
I'm sorry,
better.
can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, I'm at a loud party. That's what tonight is about. People celebrating democracy. So was just very excited to see early returns for my endorsed candidate, Lauren Taylor. He's a third generation Oaklander, just like I'm, born and raised in the town. You know, mayors have to make hard decisions. And so to have the future of the city in your heart, that matters. And the skill set. You know, he brings like an incredible business consultant management and biomedical engineering background that I think City Hall needs to really, you know, make progress on our public safety and our homelessness challenges.
Well, Mayor, you know, a recent poll from the Oakland Chamber of Commerce showed that 97% of the people they surveyed think that homelessness and gun violence are among the top problems facing the city. Clearly, those are issues we all talk about all of the time. For whoever does become the next mayor, what is going to be your advice to them? What can they do to tackle gun violence?
Well, you know, two things. One, build a big partnership. Sorry, lots of excitement here. Build big partnerships. That's what we need to take on the most vexing problems. And then don't take the easy way out. Don't just have press conferences with clever slogans or initiatives. Dig deep, do the hard work to actually fix these problems for good. Oakland has done it before with regard to gun safety. I totally believe we can do it again.
Mayor, before we let you go here, you know, you had a number of successes. I would ask you to point to the thing you're most proud of that you accomplished, and also the one thing that you left unfinished that you wish you'd gotten done.
Well, I'll start with the thing left unfinished, and that is homelessness. We have got to address California's housing crisis. That is the root cause of homelessness. And there is much, much work to do there. And it breaks my heart to drive around my city and see what it looks like and to see my fellow Oaklanders living without a roof over their head. And as far as pride, it's got to be the Oakland promise and what we've left for the next generation of children. We are leaving Oakland with universal free school access. We are leaving Oakland with a $50 million generation fund and the most nationally recognized cradle to career program in the Oakland Promise. So I'm very proud of the message that we're sending to our children, that they matter, they are our future.
And Mayor, what's next for you? We're all curious. What's in the horizon for Mayor Schaaf?
Listen, I still am going to work as the mayor of Oakland until January 2nd at 10:59 a.m. I spent 3 hours today in meetings around public safety. I'm not happy with the state of Oakland. I am going to be my hometown's mayor till that last minute. And then I promise you I'll stay in public service, but I'll decide what that looks like next year.
All right. Mayor Libby Schaaf, thanks so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to your election party.
Yeah, thank you for making the time.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
All our best. All right. And I know she'll let us know when she decides what she's doing
Yeah,
next.
intriguing. I know.
All right. Well, it is an interesting night. We are still waiting for election returns to come in. They are coming in greater numbers. We're giving them to you in real time as soon as we can get them in.
Yeah, and we're starting to get some information on the propositions as well, so we hope to get to that soon. But for the moment, we're going to take a quick break, show you some of your local election results, and then get an update for ABC7 News. Take a listen.
Live election coverage, on air, online, and streaming on the ABC7 Bay Area app. Now from ABC7, your voice, your vote.
And good evening once again on this election night. I'm Dan Ashley.
And I'm Liz Kreutz. We are breaking into our live election coverage on our 24/7 stream to bring you this updates. As results come in, we're posting. And you may have been watching. We've been live streaming updates since 8 p.m. and we will continue live streaming until 11.
Now, Congresswoman Jackie Speer, who we just heard from a moment ago on our streaming show, chose not to run for re-election. David Canepa has already conceded the race to Kevin Mullen, who also just a few minutes ago on our streaming TV app was speaking and accepting his victory tonight. Here, listen in.
We have to defend our democracy. We have folks in this country who will only honor election results if they go their way. That's not how it works in American democracy. That's how we settle fights peacefully at the ballot box. So defending our democracy, protecting voting rights, which are also under attack in red states across the country, making sure that we are building climate resiliency like we've done here in California. We have led when it comes to climate change policy, but really building an economy that truly works for everybody. Right here on the peninsula, we're the epicenter of the affordability crisis, affordable housing challenges. We have a shrinking middle class, so we need to build an economy that works for everyone. So those are the kinds of things I'm going to be pushing. And of course, protecting reproductive rights and freedoms, which are under attack.
Newly minted Congressman Kevin Mullen defeating David Canepa tonight.
And results in here, current California Governor Gavin Newsom, no surprise, easily winning a second term tonight with 62% of the vote right now against Republican challenger Brian Daly. 21% of the vote is in right now.
And Rob Bonta, appointed by the governor to be California's Attorney General. So he's the incumbent in this race. 61% of the vote. Looks like he has been re-elected now to fill that position over Nathan Hochman.
And let's talk about some of the propositions. Proposition 1 has passed. It'll add the fundamental right to reproductive freedom into the state constitution, winning handily tonight. 69% of voters saying yes right now, with 34% of the vote in.
And Proposition 28 provides funding for arts and music education in public schools, funding from the general fund for K through 12 schools. Right now, yes has 63% of the vote to no on Prop 28, 34% of the estimated vote total now in.
And Prop 29 requires on-site licensed medical professionals at kidney dialysis clinics. It also requires clinics to disclose physicians' ownership interests and report infection data. It's the third time that Californians have had to vote on reform for dialysis clinics. Right now, we're still waiting for the results, but we have 30% voting yes, 70% saying no, so it does appear that this proposition may not pass.
Proposition 30 provides funding to help reduce air pollution and prevent wildfires through a tax on personal income over $2 million. Right now, 43% of those who have voted, 34% of the estimated vote, are voting yes on Proposition 30. No has 57%.
And that's an interesting one because Governor Newsom is against it, whereas the California Democratic Party was for it.
That's exactly right, which is interesting. Let's go now to ABC7 News reporter J.R. Stone. He is live in San Francisco. J.R.?
Dan, just getting some of these results in San Francisco, these early results. I want to fast forward to Proposition I and Proposition J, which basically would either allow vehicles on the Great Highway and JFK Drive or not allow them. And so far, voters are saying no at 60% to allowing a lot of those vehicles on those roadways. And with Proposition J, so far, those voters are saying yes, we like keeping that closed, that JFK Drive closed in Golden Gate Park. So those two are going to go down to the wire. Now back to you in the studio.
All right. Thank you, JR.
And our election results live stream is going to continue all through 11 p.m. tonight. To tune in and join us, download our ABC7 Bay Area app on your smartphone or smart TV, or watch us on our website, abc7news.com.
And welcome back on this election night. Your voice, your vote. Dan Ashley along with Liz Kreutz and Phil Matier.
Yeah, we're happy to be here, and we're tracking all of our local and statewide races here on our live stream. We want to get to Santa Clara County right now. Zach Fuentes is there tracking the vote. Zach, a lot of key races down there.
A lot of key races, including the race for the next San Jose mayor. Sam Liccardo is terming out. So now it's between the candidates Cindy Chavez and Matt Mahan. We're right now at Matt Mahan's party for this vote, for this election. He just addressed his supporters here moments ago. And earlier this evening, I was at the Santa Clara County Registrar's office, and they told me that this race is one that's going to have them counting until late into the night, possibly in the coming days, because it is just that close. And that's what Matt Mahan talked about with his supporters just a little bit ago, that they don't expect to have the results today, maybe even in the coming days, but he still addressed his supporters, talking about how he has really been an underdog and that they've been able to accomplish a lot. Take a listen to what he just said to his followers, his supporters, just a little bit ago.
We started this race far behind, not just taking on an entrenched politician with essentially a 20-year head start, but also taking on the special interest donors who sided with the status quo. We were outspent by nearly $2 million, but we were never outworked. We challenged the status quo with something much more powerful than campaign cash: common sense. We told the truth on homelessness, that what we're doing right now isn't working and we must embrace change. We told the truth on crime, that we need more police officers and better policies so that our officers are not forced to rearrest the same people over and over and over again. We told the truth on housing, that we need dramatically more homes and we need them where they make sense, downtown and near well-served transit, so that we lower home prices without making traffic gridlock worse. We told the truth on mental health, and that sad truth is the failure of our county and state to build treatment beds is costing lives.
Yeah, that speech was just about 30 minutes ago, and just about 10 minutes ago, we spoke with Matt Mahan one-on-one. We'll have some sound bites from that interview later on this evening. But right now, a very enthusiastic crowd here at his campaign party. But the results, the official results, remain to be seen in this very, very close race for the next San Jose mayor. Right now, live in San Jose, Zach Fuentes, ABC7 News.
All right, Zach, thanks for that update. We appreciate it.
All right, let's give you the very latest results that we have coming in and some of the key races that we're following here tonight. We will start with the governor's race. Again, Governor Newsom will win as the incumbent, 62% of the vote. 22% now of the estimated total vote is in across the state.
And moving on now, we have Eleni Kounalakis, the incumbent lieutenant governor, a Democrat, also looks like she is likely to win her seat for a second term against Republican Angela Underwood Jacobs.
Shirley Weber is the Democratic incumbent in the Secretary of State's race. 35% of the estimated total vote in this race is now in, 62% going to Shirley Weber over challenger Rob Bernofsky, who has 38%.
And to the state controller, this was one that Republicans were really hoping they would win. They haven't won a statewide seat in about 10 years. Lonnie Chen is the Republican candidate up against Democrat Malia Cohen, but right now just shows you how hard it is for Republicans to win in California statewide. Malia Cohen at 57% right now.
Similar story in the challenge for the treasurer's race. Fiona Ma, the Democratic incumbent, has 61% of the vote, 34% of the estimated total vote in. Jack Guerrero, 39%.
And now to the Attorney General race here. Rob Bonta, the incumbent Attorney General appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom, also winning at 61% right now against Nathan Hochman.
Ricardo Lara is the incumbent, 62% of the vote in the insurance commissioner race. Robert Howell, 38% at this moment, 34% of the estimated vote total is in.
And the U.S. Senate, Alex Padilla, also appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom. Senator Padilla projected to win with 63% support right now. He was running against Mark Muser, a Republican.
All right, let's turn to some of the, well, let's go first to District 15, San Mateo County. Kevin Mullen has 57% of the vote.
And here in the Oakland mayor race, we are getting some of our first results in here to show you. Lauren Taylor with 36% of the vote right now, 29% with Chang Tao, but of course...
Kevin Mullen, of course,
This is a ranked choice race, and so this is just very preliminary information. We might not know the results of this race until Thursday, so please take this as very preliminary information right now. Ignacio de la Fuente at 13% there, also in that Oakland mayor race, which has 10 candidates.
That's right, and we just heard a few minutes ago from some of the folks down there. Matt Mahan has 51% of votes. Cindy Chavez, who just spoke just a few minutes ago right here on our digital television app, has 49% of the vote. 84% of that, very tight race, but good percentage, 84% of the total vote now in.
Yeah, and down in Santa Clara County as well, the sheriff's race right now, Robert Johnson is 53%, Kevin Jensen 47%.
And moving on to the district attorney in San Francisco, you just heard from her a few minutes ago, kind of a fiery, impassioned speech. Brooke Jenkins has 49% of the vote. She was, of course, appointed by Mayor London Breed to take the place of recalled Chesa Boudin. Josh Hamasaki has 34%.
Yeah, and it explains why she looked so happy there when she was giving her remarks. Clearly, she's doing well tonight, and she's also up against other candidates as well here in the district attorney race. And the other race that's really interesting we're following here, Alameda County district attorney race, Terry Wiley against Pamela Price. Terry Wiley, 52% right now. This is just 1% of the estimated total vote in right now. Pamela Price at 48%, so still a pretty tight race. Wiley seems to have a small lead right now.
And one of the things we've talked about is whoever wins will make history as the first district attorney of color in Alameda County. Prop J, JR was just talking about that live from the Registrar of Voters office in San Francisco. Prop J, no cars on JFK Drive, something that was instituted during the pandemic. Yes has 60% to no on Prop J. Yes being keep cars off JFK Drive.
And continuing with our results here, Prop 1, also here we're talking about JFK Drive. Yes is 39%, no 61%. So a lot of people voting no on Prop I here in San Francisco. All right, we want to talk more about the propositions. There's a lot of really interesting propositions on the ballot, and we're getting some results in.
Yeah, we are getting some results, and these probably drove a lot of voters to the polls because some of these were very high-profile issues.
Absolutely.
And Karina Nova is tracking that and has a breakdown of some of the numbers you're seeing coming in, Karina.
Well, as we know, we have two props that have passed, and that's Proposition 1, which I have the numbers up here, and Prop 31. We'll get to that in just a second. So this gives you a good outlook of, how people voted, the numbers that are in, and which counties are voting for and against some of these props. So with 30% estimated total vote, you can see this is Prop 1. It's already been called, 74% in favor, 26% against, and you can see just a few of the counties there in red. Those are the ones that voted no for it. And right here, just take a look at this number, about a 2 million difference right now. So these are the ballots. So 2 million people, that's the difference between the yeses and the noes. So this is Prop 1. Let's take a look at Prop 31, the other one that has been called, and this is the one that's tied to tobacco. It's a referendum. It's a vote on whether or not to uphold an existing state law that bans the sale of flavored tobacco products to anyone under 21 of age. So yes vote on Prop 31 would uphold the ban, and you could see it passed with pretty big numbers with 35% estimated total vote. You can see, though, 76% saying yes, 24% saying no, about a 1,892,000 difference there. So a pretty big difference, and you could see the one red county here that voted against it. And if we click on that, we can actually see it was fairly close. So you can see 48% voting yes, 52% voting no. But look at that difference. It's just 145 votes with 98% of that vote counted. So it's fairly close even in a red county like that. We have some other props that we're getting a closer look at here. So this is Prop 26, and Prop 26, the effort to legalize sports betting in California, and it would legalize it in person. You could see right now with 98% reported total vote here, 37% vote yes, 63% vote no. And this is just in Lassen County. But if I go to totals here, you get a better look at this with 36% estimated total vote. It's a little bit closer there as we take a look at the state at yes and no's. And then I'm going to pull this up here. This is Prop 26 in comparison to Prop 27, and that's the one that would legalize sports betting online. We have some other props that are coming in with totals here. This is Prop 29. If you recall, this has been on the ballot in the past, and we can actually take a look at that. You can see that it got voted down. This is in 2020. But right now, with 35% total votes coming in, 60% yes on this one. So we'll see what happens in this election. Again, this one was on the ballot multiple times before. Let's take a look at Prop 30. And this is a one that looks like it's also leaning towards yes. This is the one that would increase the income tax on people making more than $2 million a year by 1.75%. And you can see here, as of right now, 68% voting yes on it. So we're going to continue to take a look at these props for you and keep you posted on the numbers as they continue to come in. And we are seeing changes, minute by minute as they're counting those ballots, and this is a good way to take a look at how we're voting as a state and, of course, county by county. Liz and Dan, back to you for now.
Karina, thank you. We want to ask Phil about this because it's fascinating how much money was poured into these propositions around sports gambling and sports betting.
Out-of-state money.
A lot of out-of-state money, but not only.
Both.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, and they've tanked. We've all seen the ads for months about them, and it seems like they've tanked.
They have, and that was sort of a deliberate move. What we had here was out-of-state sports interests. Fan betting on phones online has grown across the country ever since the Supreme Court allowed it. And we had a move to bring it to California. It was opposed by the Indian tribes, who put their own measure up there. They said we could have sports betting, but they wanted it on their casinos. Now, there are two groups armed with billions of dollars. The casinos in Vegas that are backing the online, and the Indian tribes here with their casinos. And they pumped in well over $200 million in that race. And just to blow it up.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the tribes were just saying, we're just keep them out. And if we go down as well. And so that was just a nuclear meltdown.
It shows you how much money is in that, both in-state and out-of-state.
I will tell you what else it shows you. If you look at that, the money that Lyft has put in for its initiative, or the initiative on taxing people for charging stations and such, the tobacco money that Bloomberg put in, and the tobacco industry put that on the ballot just in order to buy 2 years more of selling these products after the legislature said no. The ballot box has become the business box. Okay, these are not social issues. These are business propositions.
But that's not new to this year, but that's certainly big time.
But it feels like voters are smart. They saw those ads on TV because Prop 27 called itself a homelessness bill. It's really about sports betting, but they billed themselves as solving homelessness.
That commercial everybody talked about with a California state full of suckers.
But voters are smart. They saw through it.
I would say that you are right, but I also could never figure out why the sports people didn't sell it as sports betting. It's like,
maybe
boy, this is going to be. They started out saying it's for the homeless, and I said, I thought it was about sports betting.
Maybe
you might
people
have
would have been more excited if it was about sports.
Hang on. Let's go now to ABC 7 News reporter Tim Johns. He's live reporting for us with Jackie Speer. Tim.
Hey, Tim. What do you got for us?
I can hear you guys. Hey guys, yeah, I'm here at the watch party for Kevin Mullen, who's expected to be the next congressman for District 15 here. He is, of course, going to be replacing longtime Congresswoman Jackie Speer, who is about to join me. She's just wrapping up a conversation right here. Congresswoman, you know, you're endorsing Kevin Mullen. Looks like he's going to win this seat. How does that make you feel?
Well, he's a great person to take over this position. He worked on my staff when I was in the State Assembly and State Senate. He went on to, great success in the State Assembly. He's earned his stripes. He's also brought back $1 billion in money to the district.
during his years in the state legislature, and he has a young family and really is going to fight for the future, and that's really what it's all about in Congress.
And you, I don't have to tell you, but you are very beloved in this district. We've been to some of your recent town halls with you and Mr. Mullins. You've obviously served in this seat for almost 15 years. Your public service career has spanned nearly 4 decades. What's it like to say goodbye to this community here on the peninsula?
So I'm not saying goodbye. That's the good part. I'm coming home, and I'm not done. So I'm going to start a new chapter, and it's going to be all about making sure that families and women can thrive in this region. We've got lots of wealth here, but we've also got abject poverty, and we've got to put a spotlight on it, and we've got to fix it.
And I want to ask you about some of our national issues as well. Obviously, this is a very watched, very high turnout midterm election. You've been in Washington for quite some time. What do you hope to see going forward from not just Mr. Mullins, but all of our elected officials?
I think there's no question that the divisiveness and the rancor has exceeded anything that can be part of a successful administration. We've got to tone it down. I mean, when you realize that January 6th was an attempted coup, I was in the gallery when that happened. I almost thought I was going to die there. When you see what happened to Paul Pelosi, and it was intended for the Speaker of the House, I mean, that's violence that we cannot tolerate nor accept. We have to be unified in our efforts to say no to violence and no to the kind of vitriol that has really been espoused by Donald Trump and others. So hopefully we'll see a new generation of leaders that can change all of that.
And going back slightly to some of your new chapters here on the peninsula, what are some of the things you specifically want to do to help eradicate some of that poverty and level the playing field for women and families in particular, as you say?
Well, I want to put community back into foundations. When you look at most foundations today, 90% of their giving is either nationally or internationally. And yet, if you look locally, right here in San Mateo County, 33% of the kids are eligible for free lunches. There's over 2,600 children who are either homeless in this county or are in positions where they could be homeless. So we've got lots of billionaires and millionaires, and it's time to think about how we can do charity right here at home.
Congresswoman Speer, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Guys, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
Tim, thanks very much. I know it's bittersweet for Jackie Speer to leave office.
It is, and she's been a congresswoman and an elected leader in the Bay Area for so long.
She has definitely left her mark.
She certainly has. All right, that was nice to hear from her tonight. And we want to get to Christian Arana. He's the Vice President of Policy at the Latino Community Foundation. Christian, we love having you. Good to see you again. Thanks for being here. Tell us, what are you tracking right now? What House races are you looking at? We know that the Latino vote is going to be huge and critical in some of these really tight races in California, these tight House races.
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a shock tonight because it was expected that there was going to be a huge red wave all across this country, and it's turning out not to be the case. It's predicted now that the House of Representatives is truly a toss-up, so it could go either way, thus making California congressional races just so important. And as we know, in the state of California, we believe in democracy, so we're going to make sure every single vote is counted. So it's going to take time. But these Latino majority districts in places like the Central Valley and Orange County are going to be so critical in determining whether or not Democrats actually maintain the majority in the House of Representatives.
Right.
You know, Christian, we know that no group is monolithic in the way they vote. But what are some of the key issues that many of the Latino voters in California have gravitated and centered on that are most important?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Latinos are just like any other voter in America. Sure. Just today, we actually partnered up with 11 organizations right across the country for an exit poll that found that Latinos, just like everyone else, believe that inflation is their top issue. On top of that, the community cares very deeply about women's reproductive health, the issue of abortion. That also goes to the top 3 issues. So this idea that Latinos just care about one single issue and that's it, it's proven election after election that's not the case, that we are just like everyone else who cares about our economy, our education, our communities, and we want to see change for ourselves as well.
What do you make of this narrative, nationally at least, maybe not so much in California, that Latinos are moving towards the Republican Party?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, those questions kind of frustrate me because people oftentimes just cherry pick data points. But the fact of the matter is that we're not seeing a dramatic shift of Latinos towards the Republican Party. Sure, you may see examples of that in places like Miami-Dade County in Florida or down in South Texas, but Democrats through and through still win over Latino voters. If anything, in the state of California, the poll that we just released a couple weeks ago, Joe Biden is popular among Latinos. The Democratic Party is popular among Latinos. And if anything, on the contrary, Donald Trump, the Republican Party, are very much disliked by the community. So we're not seeing the shift towards the Republican Party. If anything, the shift is actually Latinos becoming non-voters because no political party is engaging them. And that's a bigger question for our democracy that we should be addressing.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, Christian. If a growing number of Latino voters don't feel that they are being heard by either party, that is obviously a big gap, but it's also a big opportunity for one party or the other to really start to speak to their concerns.
Absolutely. So this poll that I mentioned that we released a couple weeks ago, we found that 71% of Latino voters in the state of California had not been contacted by any candidate or political party, which is a huge concern because if the Democrats or Republicans, for example, were trying to win these pivotal congressional seats, you would think that they wouldn't want to reach out to the community that make up the majority of these districts, right? That's a political party candidate problem, right? At least with the Latino Community Foundation, we're a philanthropic organization. We invest in nonpartisan get out the vote outreach. So the organization that we invested in these very districts, the community organizers were the ones knocking on doors, texting, phone banking, to making sure that our community understands that this election was just so important. And ultimately, if Democrats do maintain the House, it will be because our community organizers in places like Delano, California, really made the effort to make sure our community went out to vote tonight.
Absolutely. I want to ask you about some of those House races. I know we talked about them a little bit together last week, but one that I know you're tracking very closely that's fascinating is this race between Republican David Valadao in the Central Valley and his challenger, Rudy Salas.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one because if the Democrat Rudy Salas wins that race, he would actually be the first Latino to ever represent the Central Valley in the United States Congress. Wow. California has been a state for over 170 years now, and just now we might be sending a Latino from the Valley to the United States House of Representatives. So that within itself is a big deal. It's also a big deal because David Valadao, the Republican, the incumbent in that race, voted for impeachment against Donald Trump, and that is a factor going into this race. He also voted against all of the president's legislative achievements. American Rescue Plan, infrastructure, the Inflation Reduction Act. Wasn't necessarily he was proposing something else, but that last election was decided by 1,500 votes. It's going to be a nail biter again. But again, I truly do believe that Latinos, and especially young Latinos, because as of yesterday, Latino voter turnout among youth was up 8%. So Latino youth, teenagers really, actually might make the difference in this election.
That's interesting.
Wow. And there was another race you were saying just had 333 vote difference in Southern California.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Congressman Mike Garcia, who's facing off against former Assembly member Christy Smith. So the second gentleman of the United States, I think this morning, actually, I'm all lost on time here, but he was campaigning with the Democrat Christy Smith today, because as you mentioned, Liz, that race was decided last time around by 333 votes. So when we say that every single vote matters, truly every single vote matters, and depending on how things go in the next couple of weeks, so far what I'm seeing on Twitter and everywhere else, it actually may come down to California to see whether or not Democrats or Republicans win majority of the House of Representatives.
Wouldn't that be something? Yeah, very quickly, Christian, before we just have literally a few seconds left, we talked about support for Joe Biden. You know, his approval ratings are pretty low. I'm curious if you have seen numbers on whether the Latino community supports Joe Biden at a higher level than the national average.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every poll has found that President Biden is in the 40s in terms of approval rating. Our poll found that he's in the 60s.
Really?
So
I suspected that might be the case. Okay, thank you,
Yeah, the
Christian.
president is popular. Thank you.
Christian Arana, VP of Policy, Latino Community Foundation. Thanks so much, Christian. Great to have you on.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, you too. All right, we're going to pause here and give you an update on television from ABC7 News. But as we take this moment, we want to run through a few more results for you.
Yeah, take a look.
And the prompter went down.
Yeah.
Live election coverage, on air, online, and streaming on the ABC7 Bay Area app. Now from ABC7, your voice, your vote.
Hi, everybody. Dion Lim here, once again joining you from the ABC7 newsroom with the latest on your local election results, including the 7 state propositions. So for the very latest, let's get to our very own ABC7 News reporter, Luz Pena, with all the details. Luz.
Dion, we're getting the first results of several propositions on the ballot tonight. We can confirm Proposition 1 has officially passed. Prop 1 makes abortion a fundamental right for every Californian. Now take a look at the numbers. You can see over here in the numbers, you can see 69% voted yes, 31% no. Also, moments ago, we heard from Governor Newsom after Proposition 1 passed. He thanked Californians for the support. We also heard from an anti-abortion organizer who says they will continue to fight against abortions.
We are a freedom state, that we support the rights of women and girls, reproductive care, reproductive rights now are enshrined in the Constitution of the state of California.
All we can do is continue to work as hard as we can on individual levels to, save people from this horrific practice that would be legalized.
We're also keeping a close eye on the other propositions. The results are also coming in for these propositions as well. Proposition 26 and 27 are not passing so far. These propositions would have legalized sports betting in California. We spoke to a political science professor from Sonoma State University who projects these groups will come out and try again for these measures in the 2024 ballot.
Based on polling and what we're seeing, that both of these ballot measures are going to go down. Now, look. They're the most expensive ballot measures ever in California history. You add those 2 up, you add the other 5 up on the ballot, 7 on the ballot altogether, and you're going to see ballot measure spending alone that's over $750 million and will approach $1 billion. Only the U.S. presidential election is more expensive than California ballot measures driven by 26 and 27 this particular cycle.
All right, having a hard time hearing Luz Pena, but her comprehensive overview of those propositions, we appreciate that very much. Make sure to tune in to ABC7 Bay Area's app or see you on at 11.
All right, good evening once again. Dan Ashley along with Liz Kreutz and Phil Mateer as our election coverage continues here on our ABC7 TV streaming app. Glad you are with us. More and more results coming in. We'll share those with you as we move forward here. We are also, of course, watching a fascinating development nationwide, the race for control of the House of Representatives and also the Senate. Here's what we have right now as we take a look at the race for the U.S. Senate and control of the Senate. It is very close. 46 seats for the Democrats, 46 seats for the Republicans. Remember the big number to watch. The Republicans, in order to take control of the Senate, need a net 1 seat tonight to take control of the Senate. That's how close it is. It
is very, very close. We're going to bring in the chairwoman of the California Republican Party, Jessica Millen Patterson. She's joining us now live. Jessica, thanks for joining us. What are your thoughts so far on what we're seeing nationally? Very tight race still in the Senate and the House.
Yeah, and we expected that, right? Even the polling showed that many of these races throughout the country here in California would be toss-ups. Many of the polling showed within the margin of error, so it was all a game about turnout. So we're watching the turnout. Some of these returns are going to be a little bit slow here in California. In 2020, we had one race that didn't get called till December 5th. So we're buckling in and getting ready for some, watching this counting going on.
Kind of the long haul. What is your sense of the turnout today across California? Getting any numbers back in terms of whether it's been really strong turnout for just voters in general and Republican voters specifically?
Yeah, so we've been watching in, especially our battleground areas and, reports of lines, and our voters, over the last few cycles have moved from being reliable mail voters to voting in person. So we expected that. The rain in much of California, it puts a little bit of a damper on that. I'm still a strong believer in mail voting. I've been a mail voter for probably close to 20 years now. And I'm hoping that, with this rain coming and, whatever happens, if you mail your ballot in, it's taken care of. You don't have to worry about it.
We want to bring up, Jessica, we're going to show a map here of the current, where things stand right now in the House of Representatives. 185, Democrats have 185 seats right now. Republicans have 208. Each party would need a 218 to get control. And again, we know that Republicans need a net 5 to take control of the House. Jessica, we know that some of the races here in California, really in the Central Valley and Southern California, potentially could be the races that determine who controls the House. What are those races that you guys are really watching right now here in the state?
You're absolutely right. And, bringing back the House majority into Republican hands didn't just start in this cycle. It started in the last cycle. We played in 4 congressional seats. We won all 4 of those congressional seats. So number 1 will be protecting those 4 congressional seats. And that is David Valadao in the Central Valley, Mike Garcia in Los Angeles, Young Kim and Michelle Park-Steele in Orange County, a little bit of Los Angeles County in there too. Then we're looking at a couple of seats in the northern part of the Central Valley. We've got our farmer, John Duarte, who's running against Adam Gray in California 13. We've got Supervisor Tom Patty, who's running against incumbent Josh Harder in California 9. Then you go further down south and you've got in the southern part of Orange County, northern part of San Diego, you've Brian Marriott, who's running against Levin. And then you've got Scott Baugh, who's running in the coastal Orange County seat against Katie Porter. So lots to be watching here in California. We said from the beginning, it started with a special election in 2020 with Mike Garcia. And I think it's going to end here in California, the control of Congress.
What's the major issue that most of the candidates and the party in the Republican Party in the state have been focused on? Is it the economy? Is it running against Joe Biden? Is it what are the key issues that you have really made most of your bones on this cycle?
Yeah, and it's talking about what California voters have been most interested in talking about. Number 1, it's the economy. Everything is more expensive, from gasoline to groceries. Californians remember 2 years ago, before Joe Biden took office, we were paying $3.35 a gallon for gas. We're now paying $2 more per gallon of gas. This is the result of no longer being energy independent as we were the day he took office. Talking to voters about crime here in California, homicides were up 8% last year. That was following a year where it went up 31%. It was the most deadly year on record since 2007. Californians have watched smash and grabs, happen within their own communities. It's soft on crime policies that have been championed by California Democrats that have put us into this situation. Not to mention $19 billion spent on a homeless crisis that has only gotten worse. And our education stats, we just saw them come out about 2 weeks ago. 53% of our students aren't reading at grade level. So these are issues that are facing all Californians. And so it was easy to talk to them, not just about how California Democrats have failed on those issues, but what California Republican solutions were.
Mike, I just want to be real clear, Jessica, we had the wrong identifier up. It's Jessica Millen Patterson, the chairwoman of the California Republican Party. That's who we're speaking with, so we'll get that right. We had the wrong little super up.
But we do have Phil Matier here as well, and he wanted to ask you a question, Jessica.
Jessica, a question here. It's sort of an obvious one. You just gave out the issues of why Californians might be voting for Republicans for Congress. Inflation, gas pump. Why hasn't that translated onto the state front? Why is it that we're looking at these races and it continues to seem like no matter who the Republican candidate is, it runs at 60-40 Democrat over and over again?
So on the statewide level, it's always going to be a heavy lift just based on registration. We also have some of the most expensive media markets in the entire country. So having a candidate that can raise the money that's necessary to get their message out is critical. I do think that we're at a turning point. I do think that we can get there. This didn't happen overnight. We didn't expect to fix it overnight, but I think that Californians are really being fed up with what the California Democrats have been serving up.
Do you think, though, Jessica, that this issue of abortion being on the ballot, which we're seeing it win by wide margins tonight, if you guys don't do as well as you would have hoped in the House tonight and this week as we get results in, do you think that the fact that Prop 1 is on the ballot hurt you guys and hurt your candidates?
I think there's still a lot of counting to do, and we will see how it all ends up. But overwhelmingly, when we're out talking to voters, that is not an issue that comes up. They are talking about the economy. They are talking about our failing schools. They are talking about the crime in our streets, and they're talking about the homeless crisis.
Is that really the case? Because across the country, the Supreme Court decision fired up a lot of voters, Republican as well, who 83% of those surveyed said they were in fact pro-choice. You really think that your voters, your Republican voters, didn't care about that issue?
Here in California, even if Prop 1 would have failed, nothing would have changed.
Interesting.
So if we go forward with this, do you actually see, because the whole fight in California is for the independent voter. I mean, the Democrats aren't doing gangbusters in registration, and the Republicans seem to be stuck. It's this decline to state. You say it's a growth thing. What do you see going forward?
Well, when I actually took office, we were behind decline to states. In my first term, we registered 624,000 new Republicans, and we passed up decline to states, and we continue to increase that margin. So we're going to continue to engage in communities throughout our state, whether it's through our engagement centers in Little Saigon or in Bakersfield or in Palmdale, reaching out and engaging in those Latino communities. And we have to grow. I think that is the way back to sanity, and I think that's the way back to balance here in California.
All right, Jessica Millen Patterson with the California Republican Party. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
All right, let's move on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're terrific. Thanks for coming on. Let's move now to ABC7 News reporter Unser Hassan, who is live in Oakland. He's been following the Oakland mayor's race. Of course, 10 candidates vying to replace Libby Schaaf. Unser?
Unser.
You guys, it may be a little bit early to celebrate, but we are here with a real positive vibe at Councilmember Taylor's election headquarters. With 35% of the vote, he's ahead of his opponent, Vice Mayor Sheng Tao. The early round numbers are in with about 11,000 votes and 35% of the votes. Councilmember Taylor leads Sheng Tao, who is trailing by about 2,000 votes. Now in third place with a close 4,000 votes, or 12%, is Ignacio de Fuente. But when it comes to Oakland mayor's race, this is being done by ranked choice voting. Officials tell me early numbers will only be the first round votes. It may take a few days before the rest of the numbers are counted. Now those applause are coming in for other Democrats who are leading across the state. We're told by council members, Taylor's staff, that after the second round numbers are in, which should come in shortly, he'll take the stage and address the crowd. Reporting live, Ansar Hassan, ABC7 News.
Okay, Ansar, thanks very much. Very active scene where he is, as you can tell, in Oakland.
Well, and it's an active race with those 10 candidates.
Right.
We might not get any answer on whether or not we know who that mayor is for days now.
It really could be
it's a
Wednesday,
complicated
Thursday,
process.
or later.
All right, we do want to get to some video we have of Mayor London Breed. And here you go. You can see these results first, talking about the district attorney race in San Francisco. Brooke Jenkins with a sizable lead right now, 49% versus John Hamasaki, her challenger, with 34%. With just 1% of the estimated vote total in right now.
And she was talking a little while ago as if she'd already won. She hasn't, but it does look good for her. Brooke Jenkins, of course, appointed by Mayor London Breed after the recall of Chesa Boudin. London Breed spoke from Brooke Jenkins' gathering just a short time ago.
4 months ago, you appointed Brooke Jenkins as interim district attorney, and some said that was your riskiest choice. How do you feel about that now?
Well, I just listened to the people of San Francisco after the recall. I met with folks from all over the city, people who were supportive of it, people who were opposed to it, and I just listened to the people of San Francisco that told me what they wanted, and I made what I felt was the best choice for what people were saying they want. Yes, they want criminal justice reforms. Yes, they want people to have second chances. I just met somebody who told me about a second chance that he got because of people like Brooke Jenkins and the kinds of policies we pass in San Francisco, but they also want accountability. You know, the moms who, have lost their sons to gun violence, they want someone held accountable. The people who are out there selling fentanyl, which is a deadly substance, where we're having hundreds of people die every single year, there's a need to hold someone accountable for that. So having that balance was important to people from all walks of life here in San Francisco. And what we're seeing tonight is that the voters of the city as a whole seem to agree.
San Francisco's been taking a lot of hits by right-wing media and calling a liberal city, and look what's happened. So what's your message tonight?
Well, my message tonight and every night and the nights yesterday and tomorrow is San Francisco is one of the most extraordinary, beautiful cities in the world. We've been through challenges before, and it's easy for someone to point the finger and pick on a major city that's willing to take risks and also be so inclusive and diverse. And at the end of the day, I would say, regardless of the election, San Francisco still is amazing. And as a result of going through a global pandemic, no other major city could talk about the work that they did in comparison to San Francisco. So we're going to keep coming back stronger than ever. And this election is just going to be another demonstration of our resilience and our desire to see change.
So San Francisco will feel safer tomorrow?
Well, I think they felt safer the day I swore in Brooke Jenkins.
Brooke Jenkins gave you a shout out, Mayor, thanking you for trusting her. What made you trust her in the beginning when you made her appointment?
Well, it had a lot to do with the conversations I had with her and also other people who know her, other people who worked with her, people who had relationships with her, and more importantly, what a lot of folks who gave me feedback said that they wanted. So I was going to have to make a decision to pick someone, and I felt like she was the best person for the job. Well, I think the bigger issue is that the people in San Francisco, they want to feel safe. They feel like challenges around public safety have gotten out of control. And so the bigger issue here is accountability and making sure that when those lines are crossed, that we can trust the top person who's responsible for prosecution to do their jobs and to address it. It doesn't always mean jail time. It could mean giving someone a second chance. It could mean rehabilitation. It could mean someone who's struggling with mental illness who needs to be in a facility to get some help and support. It can mean so many different things. And I think that Brooke Jenkins understands that. She understands the challenges of this work, and she's very courageous and is prepared to make the hard decisions to protect the public. Oh, it feels great. It's not just because I'm mayor, it's because I'm a San Franciscan and I want the city to be safe. I want seniors to walk down the street and not be afraid. I want families to be comfortable walking their children to the parks. I want San Francisco to be a better, safer place for all of us, and she is an important part of that.
Some have criticized your relationship with Brooke Jenkins is too cozy. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I just think that's not something the press should even waste their time on commenting on. They should want, from my understanding, the public wants me to have good relationships with elected leaders in San Francisco, because at the end of the day, if we don't have good relationships, the city suffers. If we're fighting, the city suffers. When we work together, we can make magic happen for this city. We don't have to agree with everything, but we do have to put the people of this city first in everything we do, and having good relationships is an important part of that.
That is San Francisco Mayor London Breed talking with us just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and we want to talk now with Phil Matier just about this idea of this red wave, blue wave. Historically, during presidential elections, during a midterm, if a president has a low approval rating,
or even a high approval rating, it goes one way or the other.
But specifically, a lower approval rating like the president currently has, historically in the midterm, the House goes the other way, goes against the current party in power. And yet we haven't seen that yet tonight. It's not that it won't happen.
No, right now, the latest count, it looks like according to ABC, 207 to 186. Again, 218 to win. So it's not exactly a red wave, but remember, the Republicans only need 5 House seats.
They only need 5.
And they're getting close.
They are.
They're getting close.
I think that there was this sense that it was going to be...
No, what there was this hype that we are going into with elections. It's a red wave. It's a blue wave. When Dan just pointed out, it's regular. It's a tide. And it just goes one way or the other. It's not a big crash necessarily.
Well, in 2018, there was a very real blue wave. Democrats picked up 7 seats here in California that had been Republican held.
And then they lost. I mean, so it goes back and forth.
Pendulum.
You're right, but what's changed is this, or what we're living in now is that pendulum swing. It's very narrow. The likelihood of
it's almost an oscillation.
Tonight is that you're going to wind up pretty much where you were before.
Right.
And nobody got a wave, nobody got a break, one way or the other. And we look for these things and we hype it up. We can't politically, because that is what we are evolving into. I was speaking with a Congress member the other day, talking about how politics has turned into almost an hysterical situation where it's a red wave or a blue wave or a crush. Democracy is on the ballot. The end is here unless we turn out. And the irony is, there's very little change.
Yeah.
It winds up being gridlock.
But that messaging is certainly having an impact on voters. The Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies just released a poll this week that showed that 78% of the voters that they surveyed, meaning bipartisan, support here, essentially, for this statement. It said, do you agree that American democracy is in crisis? 78% of voters said yes.
You know, you can't... Every time you open your phone or your email, you get an email saying American democracy is in crisis.
It's the drumbeat.
Are you assuring me it's not? Thank you, Phil.
It's the drumbeat that we've been hearing. So it's easy to get caught up in
of course people feel that way.
All right. Let's turn our attention real quick. Thanks, Phil. We'll come back in a moment. But right now to Karina Nova, who is tracking the propositions that are on the ballot very closely for us, Karina.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see some of these sports betting results, Karina.
Yeah, and we know a lot of money has been spent on these two, Prop 26 and Prop 27. And just as a reminder to you, Prop 26, it would legalize sports betting in California and legalize sports gambling in person. And these are the results right now statewide for Prop 26. So you can see 35% voting yes, 65% voting no. It's a 1.2 million difference. So not looking good right now for Prop 26. Let's take a look at 27, and you could see it right here. The numbers aren't looking good for this one to pass either. You can see 23% voting yes and 77% voting no. And we can actually take a closer look at that one and see also which counties are voting yes and which ones are voting no. So you can see the ones in the green here are the ones that are voting yes, but the majority they're voting no. And we can even take a closer look here and see how close these are. If it was a close tie to yes and no, these would be a lighter shade of red, but you can see they're pretty convicted there, voting no for this one. So Prop 26 and 27, there's your update on that. Let's take a look at Prop 29. Want to give you some updated numbers on this. We obviously looked at this a little bit earlier. Right now, you can see the change here. Looks like 30% voting yes, 70% voting no. And that's with 32% estimated total vote. But again, for this one, this is on the ballot once again. It didn't pass in 2020. You could see right now it's not looking good. So these numbers continue to come in, and we'll keep updating you as they roll in and as those ballots continue to get counted. Back to you.
Karina, thanks very much.
Well, I think now we want to just take a pause for a moment as we head to some cut-in and updates from our local races on ABC News on television, and we're going to show you some of the results from the local races near you. Yeah, so stay tuned with us. We're going to break for just a moment, but as we take that break, we'll run through a few more of the numbers that we haven't talked about, but that we want to share with you. For example, what's happening in the Roanoke Park City Council race. Take a look at these numbers. We'll continue here in just a moment.
Live election coverage, on air, online, and streaming on the ABC7 Bay Area app. Now from ABC7, your voice, your vote.
Good evening once again. Good evening once again on this fascinating election night. I'm Dan Ashley.
And I'm Liz Koritz. We're breaking into our live election coverage on our 24/7 stream to bring you this update. Alameda County voters will make history tonight, electing the first black district attorney.
ABC7 News reporter Julian Glover is live in Oakland at the watch party for Terry Wiley. Julian?
Yeah, lots of energy and electric feeling inside of Terry Wiley's watch party, and I'll tell you why. He's currently leading by about 5 percentage points over his opponent, Pamela Price. There were chants of "Go Terry." As you see the man himself, Terry Wiley, right there. I want to show you the numbers. With nearly 133,000 votes counted so far, Wiley is leading Price by about 6,200 votes. The percentages: 52.34% Wiley, 47.66% for Price. Both candidates trying to replace retiring DA Nancy O'Malley after 13 years on the job. Price, the reform candidate campaigning on progressive policies. She served as a civil rights lawyer for decades. She's facing off against Terry Wiley, a 32-year veteran of the DA's office, now serving as chief deputy DA, campaigning on a more pragmatic approach to the job. No matter who wins tonight, Alameda County voters will be making history, electing their first black district attorney. And again, we are here live at Terry Wiley's watch party. Wiley currently leading Pamela Price by about 6,000 votes. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Julian. Appreciate it.
Now, in San Francisco's race for district attorney, appointed DA Brooke Jenkins has a solid lead over her competitors.
Here's a look at those latest results right now, with Brooke Jenkins taking the lead at 48% against her challenger, John Hamasaki, 34%. Earlier tonight, Jenkins spoke to her supporters.
Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of the people first in the DA's office who have suffered through 4 DAs in 4 years. I can't tell you what that level of instability feels like. That now they can rest. They can now serve the city and county of San Francisco and not worry that their hands will be tied. They can advocate for victims the way that they know they should without feeling that there will be repercussions.
Brooke Jenkins tonight. Now let's go to the South Bay and the very tight race for San Jose's mayor.
ABC7 News reporter Zach Fuentes is live for us. Zach.
Yeah, that's right. You've got Cindy Chavez and Matt Mahan both running to replace Mayor Sam Liccardo, who is terming out of office. And at this point, the ballots are still coming in, votes still being counted. It does show a small lead with Matt Mahan winning in this election so far. That has not been official yet, but we talked to Matt Mahan about what collaboration between the Santa Clara County Supervisor Cindy Chavez and Matt Mahan, who is a San Jose City Council member, will look like regardless of the outcome of this election. Take a look, listen as to what he said to us just about an hour ago.
After elections, elected officials have a responsibility for coming together, trying to understand what the electorate was telling them, and then working together to solve problems. And I am committed to focusing on the solutions we need.
Still a tight race that we will continue to monitor throughout the evening. Right now, live in San Jose, Zach Fuentes, ABC7 News.
All right, Zach, thank you.
And our election results live stream is going to continue all the way through 11 tonight. To tune in and join us, you can just download our ABC7 Bay Area app on your smartphone or smart TV, and then stay with us for ABC7 News at 11. We'll wrap up all of the races and results.
All right, the polls are closed. We're tracking all the results. Stay here with us. We'll continue in just a moment on our ABC7 app.
Welcome back to our special election coverage here on ABC7. We're streaming live on our ABC7 Bay Area app. I'm Liz Kreutz. Dan Ashley along with Phil Matier. We're glad you're with us here. As these results, we knew it was going to be a slow night. Results are beginning to come in. We're starting to get some an idea of what's going to happen here this evening. And we're going to turn first for a little more analysis from a good friend of ABC7 News. Yeah, Melinda Jackson, San Jose State political science professor. Melinda, thanks for joining us again tonight. So just give us your quick reaction to what we're seeing nationally and here in California right now in some of these House and Senate races. Are you surprised? What are you thinking?
Well, I think the big surprise tonight is that we are not seeing the red wave or the red tsunami that was predicted. The Senate is still very much in play. Still likely that the Republicans will get a majority in the House, but things are a lot tighter nationally than I think we expected, with Democrats actually pulling out some unexpected wins. So the national picture, I think, we're going to have to wait till all the votes are counted, and it's looking like the Senate may come down to a runoff in Georgia again, which would mean we have to wait another month. So nationally, a better night for the Democrats than many were expecting. Here in California, not a lot of surprises. I think, you know, the governor's race, no surprise there. The propositions also are pretty much coming out the way they were expected. None of them are super close this year. So, you know, we are kind of focusing on some of these hot races at the local level. We've got tight, you know, exciting mayor's races in Oakland and San Jose and down in LA as well. And even some, you know, local DA races as we've been seeing, and local sheriff's races, which are not the ones that we usually spend a lot of time talking about on election day.
You know, Melinda, it may not be a red wave, and that's such a catchy phrase that, you know, we in the media like to use, of course, but the expectation was that the Republicans will probably pick up the 5 seats that they need in the House. It's still looking that way, and as you say, the Senate is very close, but they only need 1 seat to take control of the Senate. What is your best guess as to how this will end up, given what you're seeing?
No pressure.
No pressure.
Well, you know, it's always dangerous to make those kinds of predictions. But, you know, I do think that it's still very likely the Republicans will gain control of the House. I really think, you know, this morning I would have predicted most likely they would get the Senate as well. But I think you know, the Democrats only need 50 seats to hold control in the Senate because the vice president casts the tie-breaking vote. So, you know, it's looking like the Democrats might actually be able to pull that off. We're still waiting for those key races in Arizona and Nevada and Georgia and Pennsylvania.
Which,
you know,
given where Joe Biden is in terms of approval rating, given the inflation and the economy, everything else, that'd actually be a pretty good night in terms of what the Democrats get out of the Senate, would it not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, as we know, the conventional wisdom is that the president's party loses seats in a midterm election. That's almost always the case. And particularly when you look at, you know, the high inflation rate and the, you know, the dissatisfaction with the economy, the real nervousness that we might be going into a recession, the low approval numbers that Biden has. If the Democrats actually do manage to hold on to the Senate, I think that would be a huge victory, really, for them. Of course, either way, we're probably going to see divided government for the next 2 years, which means that not much is going to happen probably, except talking about the next presidential election starting tomorrow.
Phil Matier here. I want to take a look back here in the Bay Area. We're talking about, you know, red waves, or the idea that Republicans with their issues, you know, the idea of them taking control or rising. But is it interesting that if we look here in the Bay Area and you look at the Democrats and the progressives, who just 2 years ago were talking about defunding the police, guaranteed income for everyone, safe injection centers, and now we see these people being elected on more cops. Drug dealers need to go to jail. The homeless need to get off the streets one way or the other. Are the Democrats in progressive California becoming more moderate or less? What's going on with the Democrats here?
It does seem that they're taking a more pragmatic tone. I think that's certainly true. We do have such strong Democratic majorities here in California, and particularly in the Bay Area. I mean, we don't have any, you know, competitive congressional seats, for example, really. And a number of these races for state Senate and legislative seats, we have 2 Democrats running against each other. So, you know, I think that does create an incentive to go more toward the middle.
Well, that's certainly interesting, because now in California, we're becoming a 3-party state, 1 Republican and 2 Democratic rivals in between, right? Moderates versus
and we also have a significant number of voters who don't identify with either party. The no party preference folks are declined to state. And so, you know, really, those Democratic candidates, I think, are reaching out toward those voters in the middle as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Melinda.
Yeah, Melinda, no, I wish we could keep chatting, Melinda, but we got to wrap up. So thank you so much, Melinda Jackson from San Jose State, for joining us.
We always appreciate her analysis.
I know.
She's the greatest. Okay. Phil, you know, we were talking about this with Melinda, obviously. The red wave, whatever you want to call it, it's still, the Republicans are still likely to gain control of the House. The Senate is an open question.
Tenuous control. Everybody's holding it by their fingertips.
But she makes a good point. That means tomorrow everybody turns their attention now on 2024. All the politicians. Washington becomes what The public always says they hate gridlock once again. It's going to be challenging to get anything done. And the divisiveness may even go up a notch higher, if one can believe it.
Yes, that's true. And I've always said, and people always, what are you saying? I say, gridlock's not a bad thing, okay? Right. Okay? It's not always a bad thing, okay? Right. As some people say, you know, it's not getting anything done. That's better than getting something wrong done. We've done a lot of that.
Dramatically wrong.
It's dramatically wrong. Iraq war, things like that. We've dramatically, but we are in this, and already, you know, there was already going into this. What is the fate of Joe Biden? What is the fate of Donald Trump? Are they going to announce? Was Donald Trump going to announce tonight? Is he going to announce tomorrow? Already we're playing the 24 game. And so, you know, the concern is that in order to get ready for the 24 game, we're going to have to amp it up even more.
Right. I heard, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, even a more question we could ask even sooner if Democrats do lose the House is what's the next steps for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi?
Well, that's huge. That's huge. And right here for the Bay Area, because while we look at it nationally, if Nancy Pelosi is not the Speaker of the House and the Democrats are not in control, that hits the Bay Area severely because she has brought billions of dollars to California.
And she hinted the other day in an interview that her future is uncertain in the House, whether she stays or not.
Well, and people forget that 2 years ago, she basically said, this is my last term as Speaker because there were challenges mounting within the party, within her own caucus for a change. So if Nancy Pelosi is not House Speaker, we in California have some tough times ahead of us. We just do. I mean, it is
we lose a lot of leverage.
A lot of leverage there. And except for the new Speaker could be Kevin McCarthy. So California might be getting money, but I got a feeling it's not coming to the Bay Area. Okay?
Not as much.
It's going to Bakersfield.
Well, there'll be a lot of politics to talk about if there's a race for Nancy Pelosi's seat anytime soon. Yeah. All right, we want to get to another one of our guests, Ramesh Srinivasan, the UCLA Professor of Information Studies, joining us actually from South Africa. So thank you for joining us.
What time is it there?
Exactly.
The number one question.
It's right now 8 o'clock in the morning out here.
Oh, okay. Well, we appreciate you waking up early for us. Let's start just by talking. You're the Professor of Information Studies at UCLA. How much have you been tracking disinformation and misinformation in this election?
I mean, we've been looking at it for years. It's been a huge issue, you know, dating back several years, but definitely during this election, especially with Elon Musk's recent takeover of Twitter, his firing of various content moderators, and some of the honestly sort of strange policies he's implemented. We've been looking at Twitter quite specifically, but Facebook has also been a major platform for radicalization and disinformation. So the most important thing here is to recognize that, unfortunately, most Americans, and actually people around the world more and more, get their news or get their information on political, economic, and other issues from these specific platforms, right? From Twitter, from Facebook, and so on. And Twitter actually has far fewer users than a platform like Facebook/Instagram, but it influences journalism so much. So the problem with that is these sort of technology platforms are targeting people, and I don't mean that necessarily in an inherently malicious way, but they're basically figuring out what kind of content can I serve someone, a given user, a given individual, based on what will get their attention, what will activate their psychology, what will fire their dopamine. So what that means is we don't just get the issues and the different positions on issues, we get content that is usually likely to outrage us or arouse us and so on. So what that does at scale is it ends up dividing up the American population, and that's part of what I hear you all discussing right now.
Yeah, and that, you know, and I saw a study recently just about this very point, that what drives interaction on platforms like Twitter is that outrage. The more outrageous it is, the more you're likely to respond, and you get into that so-called that gladiator ring and participate in this spectacle, which only fuels it more. What is the answer? I know there's increasing talk about some kind of legislation or some kind of control to try to slow this down. What are the answers, Ramesh?
Well, the big issue is that, you know, the content platforms have never been held to the same liability as a channel or a network like yourselves, right? And the reason why is because you can't say that ABC News is the same as Facebook, because on a platform like Facebook, we're talking about so much content being posted by so many of us all over the place all the time, right? So this relates to what was called Section 230, which dates back way back to 1996, which was supposed to give limited liability to content providers, to platforms, to technology platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and so on, so that they weren't as liable for hateful content or disinformation content. However, now what we really need to do is rein it in. And the key thing to rein things in is exactly what you were just referring to. It's not so much that free speech shouldn't be on the platform. It's the fact that often hateful speech or outrageous speech, and quite honestly, most of that skews to the right, to the Republican Party, and the data show that. The data showed that very clearly in 2016 in the Trump election and also in Brexit. So the problem is why is the content that's most visible and viral the content that's most outrageous, right? So it's not so much that free speech should be supported, which is a huge part of our democracy. It's the fact that the outrageous speech ends up becoming what counts as the most visible and viral speech, right? So like we all know people where we're in a room, or we know people who say things that are crazy. That's always been part of our society, to be very deviant. And we can accept all of that. We can even listen to them sometimes. But if the stuff that's most outrageous ends up becoming what dominates our airwaves, or in this case, our screens, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. But isn't that a great American tradition? Isn't that a great American tradition? I mean, since our founding, whether newspapers, yellow journalism, Time Life lock, we have these newspapers and magazines in America have long spewed out things that are questionable, gotten us into wars from Cuba to Iraq. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's electronic now, but this has been part of our environment since our inception.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the stories of William Randolph Hearst and yellow journalism dating back, decades, we can see that. However, the content that's most dominant is not necessarily the content that's most propagandist on newspapers, right? If I go onto the New York Times or on CNN or on ABC, I'm not going to see the most yellow journalistic content go most viral. In fact, a lot of that got reined in by legislation and regulation. I think the point, again, I'm trying to make is we need to have some sort of guardrails so that these algorithms don't just privilege the most sensationalist and propagandist and often outrageous content. And that can be done. So free speech doesn't exist in a vacuum. Free speech exists in a society. We know very well that some people in our society and around the world have more free speech than others, even though we're all supposed to be created equal. Remember that famous expression from George Orwell's Animal Farm? All of us are created equal, but some of us are created more equal than others.
That's a nice place to button this. Ramesh Srinivasan, UCLA professor of information studies, thank you so much for joining us, especially from South Africa. Yes. We really appreciate your time, and be safe, and thanks again for coming on.
It's a pleasure. I'm glued to the airwaves here, so, back in the U.S.
I'll bet.
So I'm with you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And that is it for our live stream election coverage. I'm Liz Kreutz.
And I'm Dan Ashley. We so appreciate your being with us. Thanks to Phil Mateer, for our entire team working so hard to bring you the very latest here. Our coverage will continue in just a few minutes now on ABC7 News at 11, so you can switch over to the television side if you have maybe been watching both screens tonight.
Dual screens.
Yeah, so please be sure to do that. And remember, get updated election results anytime on ABC7news.com. We'll leave you with more results right now.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us, and have a great night.